Platinum
People I
Guacamelee,
hitchhiked with?
and then played
Crazy.
like half a Guacamelee.
I believe
too.
it. My biggest fear when you're talking about those cops is like, you're lucky they're not sadistic fucks. And they're
Yeah.
just like, we got him on the ropes. Well, they had chest
body
cam,
cameras.
right?
Exactly,
Chest
yeah.
cams.
Oh yeah, would be the first time they turned it off.
Yeah, this never disappeared before. Hello and welcome to Strange Conversations. This is the weekly tech and video game news show, part of the Strange Gaming Network. I am one of your hosts, Brent Metcalf, along with,
Handsome John,
also
John
known
Bennett.
as Spider-Man. On my far left,
I guess I'm Spider-Man.
Dylan Sinat.
the mountain goat. And my other left.
The dispatcher, Mark Clover.
Oh, look at that. He's throwing in his own
I
thing.
know.
You don't
He
get
took
to
it.
nickname yourself.
No, I did it.
I know.
I
he
gave it to
he
him.
gave it to him. It's fine. It's fine. Normally we have gathered together to bring you our interesting topics that we talk about at the tail end of the show. But first,
The important shit.
the important
The important
indeed.
No warning.
Start
just,
us off, Dylan.
Yeah, you gotta just kind of roll
we can't
right
do
into
it in unison anymore because you won't let us.
Nope.
Exactly. The first bit of news that I want to talk about is one. I'm not sure how many of you were fully aware of this before I gave you guys this article, but Amazon Game Studios
Yes.
game got leaked.
Yes, it did.
Got leaked in a weird way. We knew it was coming,
Okay,
but everyone had to do an
track to the
indie
first part of that. Amazon what?
Game Studios. It is
Yep.
they're
They've had one for a while now.
self-publishing and developing.
Yeah, they're
I don't know if they acquired a studio.
so no, they
But
built
they're-
it in house because they acquired an engine, refabricated the engine. It's called Lumberyard, and then they
There we
said
go,
they're going to start making games based in Lumberyard to help like
And the-
publish it
yep.
or show it off.
The only thing we knew was that it is called A New World, and that it was supposed to be about conquering a new frontier. And then they did a private alpha, and oddly enough, no one said anything about the private alpha. It was actually not leaked or talked about. It was really weird. And then they're doing a private beta now, and somebody decided to leak the footage on Pornhub.
Of course, where else would you put it?
It's like
What
2
better way
hours of
to have it?
gameplay.
Yeah.
So once that got leaked, a couple people on YouTube got a hold of it, and then the first few times I was trying to link something, because I saw this early in the week, I kept seeing everything get taken down. But IGN, I guess, either had one mirrored or kept it.
Yeah.
But they had one linked where a guy only had like a 10-minute version of it. But they showed the gameplay. It looks like maybe what most people thought Destiny was going to be. It's like an action RPG MMO, seemingly with maybe persistence within the worlds, but the worlds are all the same. And it's also a sci-fi fantasy twist, so it's not just like Coming to America. It's like Coming to America, and there's wizards and weird creatures and other things.
Yeah.
It also has some survival aspects to it
Yep.
too, which I think are more common in your MMOs these days.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
almost like an MMO meets like maybe Rust. and
Yeah,
some other stuff
exactly.
Like that.
Yeah, it looked really cool.
Yep.
The leak itself is hilarious. Like Pornhub seems to be getting a lot of various
Very
leaks
weird hype.
because they're just like, well, we're not gonna take it down. More people visiting the site.
Well, I mean, Pornhub's fairly secure.
Yeah, and I mean they're not worried about anybody being like, hey, we're gonna get you with the copyright. He's like,
Fine.
try it. But I want more information because I'm not sold on it personally. It is an interesting take. I like that concept, the colonial.
Totally, yeah.
I can't imagine this is not going to get some sort of flack from somebody. Like, that whole colonization period of history is not great for some races.
What's
and
weird is oddly enough.
I was wondering where you were going with this. I'm like, is it because of the material system where they're like doing the skinning and stuff? I'm like,
It's because of like, I mean, a weird example is today in the U.S. It is Columbus Day, or as half the companies are changing it to is Indigenous Peoples Day.
yeah.
So I mean, it's definitely an odd time in history. I don't think they're basing it on the U.S.
No, they're not. Yeah. They're not. It just has a lot of similarities with what people will see.
It does, just with fantasy and stuff.
If they can incorporate it that way, I think they would. If they're smart, they'll be like, yeah, there's like lizard people races, and we're enslaving them, and that's your metaphor.
Yeah. So what I thought was hilarious is I
don't even know if they're gonna go that deep, are they?
Well, see, I saw somebody on Twitter talking about it when it got leaked, and they're basically like, imagine if, what is the Will Smith movie with the mutant creature? Bright? No, Bright.
Oh yeah.
So they were like, imagine if Amazon actually made Bright and they
He's
owned
an
it.
orc.
Exactly. And this was the beginning of that series. Like, you're colonizing the people, and there are orcs there, and you're taking their land and everything. And it's like, imagine if Amazon had a TV series that they tie into this, or some crazy weird play that they have.
Be awesome.
It'd be next level.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and I could totally see him doing it too.
Oh yeah. they actually have that kind of cap. They're one of like the larger companies like
That
Google.
don't care with money.
Yeah, so they're
No.
just like, well, we can do whatever we want with this.
The problem is you run into the fact that like if the TV show is one better than the game, that's gonna suck. Or if two, the game, what's gonna suck more is if the game is better than the show.
They're both going to drive each other, though.
I would say I think the game better being the show would hurt them more because the show would be easier, lower barrier of entry. You get more people in. People who are already playing the game are going to go for the show. Like that was the thing for me with Game of Thrones. Like you have a solid show. You just have to make a halfway decent game and we're good.
Yeah.
My barrier for entry is really low. It's just a zipper.
Speaking of games and shows, one of the best shows about a game is Sword Art Online.
It's pretty good.
It was pretty good.
Sow.
And it seems that they are doing a game that you may actually really fancy, Brent.
Maybe.
It seems like the RPG, kind of like the it's not Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy Tactics. Not that.
You have to continue describing the game before I can give you anything. At this
So
point.
it's basically just like you can party with up to I believe 3 people, and it's seemingly just like an RPG. It's not quite turn-based, but it's like hack and slash, like
So
small
it's
movement.
probably more like Diablo-esque,
Yeah.
Yeah, seemingly somewhat Diablo-esque.
like top-down view, the isometric view.
Yep, isometric view. It looks cool. It seems like a RPG, little dungeon crawler type game. Nothing too crazy, but it looks similar to SAO and
Yeah,
looks cool.
They've done a really good job. That whole franchise has, I think this will be like the 5th game. And as the show progresses, which it moves into various genres, not just like fantasy MMO, but like moving into shooters and stuff, they've made the games move in those directions as well. So it's kind of cool to see them come back to the fantasy, but take a different genre, so to speak, because they've done the action-oriented stuff. They were okay. They're on Vita, PS4, PC, and Switch now.
Yeah.
But they've always been okay games, not great. And so seeing something that's a little bit more, I guess, not attached to the show in any way. It's the property, but not using their storylines or anything like that. This is built up from the ground up, brand new story. I think they could actually make something that's worthwhile.
How many seasons of the show are there now?
Technically, it depends on how you slice it because I've seen some people talk about how it's 12 episodes a season, but they put 24 out, so it's technically 2 seasons.
I was about to say, I
one
watched
season
the
grouping.
first 24 episode
Correct.
season.
Are you talking about SAO
Yeah.
or EAO or GSO? Because there was Sword Art, then Elf Art, and then Gun.
So but technically the Alfheim spreads across 2 seasons on Netflix because it's the one that has like the most connected to it. Yeah, but overall there are 48 episodes. We know that much. That's all we need to know. There you go.
The game is actually called Sword Art Online Arcade Deep Explorer. It's also worth noting that it is coming to, I don't know if it's exclusively coming to game centers, but it is definitely first coming to game centers in Japan.
I think that's cool.
Yeah, it's a cool little concept. I've always liked arcades and whatnot, so I thought it was cool. It was also really weird that article, if you guys click in the down in the description, it's from Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
So Crunchyroll is the one who I guess announced this. I don't know if it got leaked or talked about beforehand, but
So amazing.
So I think Crunchyroll owns the publishing rights, or they do a certain amount of it. It might have been just a partnership, but they're the ones that like get it first, and then it moves to Netflix and Funimation and stuff. Those companies are always kind of hard to keep track because they were very distinct for a long time, and now the amount of partnerships they do between each other and the cross pollination just to keep themselves relevant in a streaming service laden like era, it's kind of hard to follow.
Yep. So this next one, this is a topic that they have no idea about, or a news heading that they have no idea about. And this is mainly just I wanted to read a news heading. And oddly enough, if you're not from America, you should know that in America we have the most humorous state of all, which is what?
Florida.
It is Florida. This is
The plywood state.
from Florida for some odd reason.
Florida
and
man.
legitimately, the headline of this article is Florida gas station forced to post signs, do not warm urine in the microwave section.
What?
Because apparently multiple issues with this. People have been apparently coming in there, and I looked into this because I was trying to figure out like the reasoning for this.
Yeah.
Apparently people think if you microwave urine, you'll pass a piss test.
Oh my goodness.
I've renounced all history ties with historical ties with Florida. In my past now.
I just want to go back to
3 years of my life. Just delete.
the opening of the show where I said this is our tech news and video game podcast.
Yeah.
And neither of these are relevant. And not only that, for a little bit of inside baseball, every week we have a document. At the bottom of the document, we've talked about this before, I have news stories. I had at least 20 good news stories this
that's
week.
solid,
And you're like,
yeah.
you know what's better? Warm piss at this gas station.
To me, it was just so I couldn't even comprehend. Like when I first read it, I was like, "That's clickbait. There's no way this is real."
Yeah.
And then like as I was going through the article, like I'll just read a small snippet of this article because it's a full of gold. I'll unhide the link for you guys, obviously, but it's the owner says we got sick and tired of people bringing their urine containers in. They're just random people walking in. It happens every day. And he explained that some of these urine warmers, they call them urine warmers, didn't even purchase anything.
UWs.
And he explains they sometimes become aggressive when confronted. And one woman rightly pointed out that there was no sign expressing that it was not allowed to warm urine in the microwave. Therefore, continued to do it.
It also says you can't murder people inside the store. I thought it's pretty self-explanatory.
So amazing. It was just one of those things where, like, I was going through the news over the weekend. I got back, and it was, like, Sunday morning, just read the news, and I was like, that's not real. And I clicked, and I was like, I have to tell everyone about this. This is the greatest article I've ever read.
I want to know he hid this in the docket from us, though.
The best part is
he just put a bunch of words. He apparently put the hyperlink down there somewhere in
The-
one letter, and then
Exactly.
changed the text color back so we couldn't see it.
So inside the text, "Can you believe it?" which was my news heading for this. Inside of the eye, I changed the color and everything, so you had to specifically click the eye.
Not just any character, the eye.
the smallest one. Yes.
I want you to know that the trick's not going to work again.
Nope.
You
no,
played
no.
your
Click it.
hand.
If you
Every
ever
letter.
don't have a hyperlink in there, I'm gonna have to inspect
It
it.
would have if I have a hyperlink, but it's a decoy.
All I know
It
is
might be. You never know.
Some people should have been a blowjob. I'm going to steal the next news story because it's kind of connected to your news story.
Yeah?
Talking about arcades. Apparently in Japan, they're going to raise what they call appreciation tax. It's like for food and other things that you kind
a
of
food
do for
tax.
fun.
Entertainment
It's not
tax?
just food though. 'cause
No, I'm saying like a food tax.
Like a food tax. It's more of an entertainment tax. That'd be correct. It's going from 8% up to 10%, and they are now going to tack it on to arcade machines. This is a huge deal because in Japan the arcades are alive and well for the most part. And they're traditionally played with 50 and 100 yen coins. So people who go to arcades only have to get that much. So it's basically leaving arcades with this tough decision of either letting the consumer take that cost, which means they now have to bring more coins, which could be very difficult for them to do so.
Singular coins at that. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or eating the cost themselves, which means it's cutting into their bottom line that's already really, really terrible to begin with.
They're going to have to come up with a system
I
to
just
make it
have
easy.
to raise them across the only way I could see this is raising it across the board by about 50,
Yeah.
and then just letting it eat the cost.
I just imagine like the barcades and stuff that we go to occasionally. Instead of being like a quarter, it's like a quarter and 2 pennies. And
Yeah.
they're like,
yeah, exactly.
Or even a
Is that
quarter
nice?
and a nickel, and it's like, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there are people who have owned arcades or have worked in them for years that are terrified right now because they're afraid that the industry will just up and vanish.
do they have a sign at their microwave?
No, they don't.
Okay.
I don't believe that is the case.
I was about to say, how is this at all
Related
pertain?
to
Exactly.
the arcade
The Sword
store
Art
with
one, yeah,
Sword
yeah.
Art Online.
Okay.
We talked about team
I
up
was like,
stories,
this
and you
has
said the
nothing to do with
arcade.
urine or microwaves or Florida.
I think he just wants to get rid of that
Yeah.
from his memory.
So I just
like
thought
it-
it was interesting to see a world like because we have Dave and Buster's like
Well, if you remember
The
I
communist
think I don't know if it
establishment.
was. I think it was our state tried to institute a movie tax.
yeah
And we voted it no because we were like, that will kill it.
yeah I agree.
And
Speaking of, there's
Here
going to
we
be the midterm elections. You should look into your state's legislation.
Please
Check it
go
out.
vote. It is not hard to register.
We have one to
Yeah,
lower
go
income
vote.
tax in North Carolina. You should be for that. Just
Please go vote.
do it.
That is our PSA for the day. I'll be back at the end of the show. So I just thought it was interesting because we don't really have a whole lot of arcades. We have a few
I wish we
arcades
did.
that are new,
I
but
wish we did. That's one thing I do really miss.
I agree.
Yeah.
But
Because I remember Concord Mills used to have 3. They used to have 2
Yeah.
arcades, and then they had the racing cockpit.
Oh
setup
yeah,
place,
yeah, I forgot about that.
Those were all awesome when I was a kid. And then when I came to college here, none of them were there, and I was like, what is this?
This is
We
why I
have
wanted to
David
go to
Buster's.
college here.
we used
the
to have,
only
I don't
reason.
know when you guys all were around here when you were kids, right?
yeah, for the most part.
Concord Mills, Dave and Buster's used to be a place called Jillian's,
Yeah.
which was
Yeah.
really cool.
Oh yeah.
But then where I think it's maybe the Nike outlet is, there used to be a place that had indoor roller coasters and stuff in the mall. It was fucking crazy.
Oh, that
Yeah.
is really cool.
They went away. I was like, I hate you.
Yeah.
That was cool.
But even what was it? NASCAR Speed Park.
They used to have all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, like the indoor track.
Now it's called the Speed Park. No longer NASCAR affiliated.
Don't want to pay for that.
Yeah.
Um, But it's interesting because that is a culture there. Like it was for us growing up, and then it disappeared, and everyone just seemingly kind of forgot about it. But
it's weird because like even in I believe it's China as well, the game centers one they use those for stats. They're like, hey, these are Overwatch is being played so much, and these what are they called? It's not called game centers. It's called something. It's got a weird name. Cafes.
Yeah, the game cafes.
Yeah, I feel like it was. I don't know. I feel like it was some type of odd name they used. But either way, it's definitely very fascinating.
Yeah.
Something else that's very fascinating is Walking Dead will not die.
Oh man, what a story! What a story! So last week there were all these rumors going on. Telltale was continuously talking to people of like, "Hey, we're working with partners. We're trying to find a way to keep the game going, so that way we can at least finish out these last 2 episodes." Through Heartbreak, I finished the last episode 2, the last one they released. I really wanted to see the end of this. Of course, I don't want this to come at the expense of other people getting paid, so extremely conflicted about this. And then in the middle of the week, a woman took to Twitter saying, hey, remember that 25-person team that they were keeping on? Well, we've just been laid off. Not the entire team. More details were revealed. But they laid off another 9 individuals, seemingly leaving those others to finish off and just be laid off at any second because, once again, no warning, nothing.
Yeah, no floor underneath them.
Nothing. And then New York Comic-Con happened this weekend. And out of nowhere, I guess I shouldn't say out of nowhere because it totally makes sense, but Robert Kirkman, during the Skybound, or it was actually during the Walking Dead panel for the show, I think, announced that Skybound Entertainment, which is the publishing arm for Walking Dead, has attained all the assets. They have all the rights, obviously, because they own Walking Dead. They're going to be hiring and staffing up with old Telltale employees to finish off the last 2 episodes. Wow. So they want to end her story properly. They obviously are changing the timetable that they had, so it won't be out this year, they don't think. But they're working on the process so they can finish this story the way it needs to be, using the people who were involved to begin with.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
Great PR for Skybound.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, it is almost long enough towards they could have easily lost a lot of people. There's no way people are going to go, hey, I'll be right back. I'm going to go finish this off and come back.
You're not wrong.
It's such a crappy situation.
Yeah. 100%.
But I'm glad that at least some of the people there are going to get something out of it.
It's such a weird situation because Skybound's not responsible for Telltale.
Yeah.
But they're affiliated with them, so how do you handle this scenario? It seems like they're being the good people here. Because it is a mutual relationship here. We purchase, they get to finish, they look like good people, we get our story, they hire people, they get paid.
Yeah. But what happens though? I mean, does that mean that Telltale is going to get the money, I guess, from the sales to be able to pay off what's going to happen?
No, Skybound's getting it.
All of it.
This is all them. They've seized the assets. Is essentially what they're saying. Like
that makes sense.
Telltale is no longer involved.
Okay.
At all.
Except for ex-employees.
Ex-employees will be coming back in, but they're no longer affiliated with Telltale, so it's fine.
Super stoked.
Yeah. Yep. It's seemingly a
I felt
good heart.
so selfish wanting that to be finished.
I agree.
And I was like, there's no way I could, in my mind, be like, no, finish it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like...
Dude, oh, man, so many people I was like, modders just work on PC stuff all their life, and they're fine not getting paid. I'm like, yeah, they also have jobs and do it in their free time. That's not how economics work.
It's a hobby.
Good Lord.
People are brave. The next little bit of news topic we have, speaking of things that we really want to get finished, it seems that there is a Harry Potter game that could be real.
I assume you watched?
I watched it, yeah.
Did you watch?
No.
Did you watch?
No.
This isn't just a Harry Potter game.
Yeah.
Like, this is not like, oh, it's kind of cool. It's no, this is a dope game with Harry Potter involved.
I didn't know there was video leaked.
So, footage was leaked
awesome.
of what looks like probably alpha to show off what the game mechanics would be to a publisher of some sort. The rumor, it's WB, obviously owns the Harry Potter IP, especially for video game stuff. But the rumor right now is that it's either Monolith, who's done the Shadow of Mordor series, or it's what's the other one?
See, I had read the rumors about when you posted it. I'd already saw the video from then.
Yeah.
I just thought that it was like, it looks very like scissor roll, like, hey, this is where we're going with the idea, like how you would pitch a game.
Yeah.
It basically looks like a how to pitch a game
yeah.
video.
So the rumor right now is that this has been going for a while, and that they believe is either Monolith or some other studio. I can't remember the name right now, but it takes place in the late 1800s, early 1900s. It's not affiliated with Harry and the gang. But you are a student at Hogwarts.
Yep.
You're a fifth-year student. You've been transferred over, and so you get to pick your house. You'll go to classes. You'll learn magic. It seemingly is open world-esque, where you get to wander around Hogwarts.
Yep.
your spells are all real spells, but it's all environmental combat. So like the sequences they showed were like a bunch of goblins coming in, and so the person grabbed the archway above them and then slammed it down on them to take them out, and then moved over to their right to take on someone else by throwing rocks over. Like, so you're not learning combat, which is how the school works, but you're learning how to use your environment around you with the magic.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh,
that is cool,
man.
And
interesting.
It just looked so like they showed like a couple like bits and bobs of like kind of going in and out from like, oh, these are like a pack of Slytherin people doing this type of stuff, and it just like it feels like a really awesome MMO. Like, I don't know if it's meant to be an MMO or whatever it is, but it just feels like you're going to be a person at Hogwarts, and it's going to be a living, breathing world, and like you're going to do what you want to do, and you're not trying to be Harry. You're not like you're not following that story or anything like that. It just I don't know. It just seems awesome. When I was the thing I was reading, though, was talking about they thought Monolith was behind it, and they were talking about what they've done with Shadow of Mordor and whatnot. And they were talking about if they incorporated the Nemesis systems into like not a enemy system, but more of like house leaders. Like, hey, that guy, like, hey, Brent's leading Gryffindor, and he gets hurt on his broom, and John has to take over, and then like you beat him in a Quidditch match or whatever. So then now he's like the face of Gryffindor. And
that would
be
super dope.
I was like, that would be amazing.
If they could also steal a little bit of Persona, because Persona does really relationships really well, where you're like hanging out with people and you learn to grow and all this other stuff, and it actually meaningfully impacts your combat sequences.
You said relationship, and I know he was like Persona gorging over there.
But I mean, it's been talked about a lot because it was out like early last week. But the comparison of like what Rocksteady did for Batman is what it looks like the studio is doing for Harry Potter, and I agree entirely. Like if they can pull off what they're showing here, it's really going to change what the idea of like a tie-in game can be.
Yeah. Oh, hands down.
And it's also something that I'm very appreciative of because it's easy to like all the Harry Potter games now are like, hey, this is Harry, or hey, you're a kid and there's Harry, and this is just like no. You can do what you want to do. You're gonna be in what house you want to be in. You're gonna make your story. Like this is you.
I mean, you platinumed Harry Potter. Lego
with Brianna, but for her,
not
not myself. No, but I mean, I talked about it before. We were talking about game pitches, like Bully, where you get to run around here Hogwarts, pick your class, and then do stuff. Like,
I was about to say, if I could go like be a Slytherin or go be a Hufflepuff or whatever, like that would be really cool.
Yeah. So.
Like having like totally different storylines that you're creating yourself based on your character.
Yeah. See, what I think would be the fifth year part. I didn't actually see the fifth year part. Maybe I just missed that, or I don't know, just didn't see it. But the year thing, what I was thinking of would be super cool. Of like, basically before you get to take control, like maybe like a couple weeks beforehand, and then you get to go like choose all your stuff, and it's one of those things where the sorting hat actually sorts you, and you don't choose it. It's like, hey, you beat the crap out of a kid on the freaking train car. You're not going Gryffindor, that's for certain.
Like you have literally like 3 or 4 choices of questions or actions that you would do, and then it would sort you that way. That'd be cool.
That'd be cool.
I agree. All I know is that we're one little group of millions. Listen to us and make it happen.
I think that if you were all sorting hatted, where do you think you would go?
Ooh, that.
I'm not goofy enough to be Hufflepuff.
Yeah.
I'm not sly enough to be Slytherin. So it's either Ravenclaw or Gryffindor. But I just don't think I'm smart, but I'm not brainy. Yeah. So I guess Gryffindor.
I'd probably end up being Slytherin.
I'd 100% be Slytherin. I have no doubt.
Nice bed.
Can
I slither in?
Ooh. Oh. I don't know. It would be the thing is like the thing with Slytherin is like the stuff I would want to do is like my Gryffindor side would like stop my Slytherin side. So there would be the sorting hat would sit there and like catch fire and not know what to do.
See, that's why I think that I would probably be between Ravenclaw and Slytherin, but I just think because I'm somewhat devious at times, I think.
You're con man. You're totally in Slytherin.
I would go to Slytherin.
What about you, Marky Mark?
More than likely Ravenclaw.
Yeah. I could totally see that. Yeah. It's really interesting to watch like people react to this because again, what I want is not a Harry Potter game. I want a Harry Potter universe game.
Yeah.
Give me that. This isn't the fantasy. Like it's not like Batman. I want to be Batman. Like there's no way around that. But I don't want to be Harry Potter.
Yeah, see, the other issue is
as long as they make it interesting enough storyline-wise to make it compelling, like
I
Dumbledore interesting.
Yeah. See, I feel like it's fascinating because like no matter what, like we want to be a Batman. Like there's no one that doesn't want to be Batman. But I feel like the Harry Potter world, like you always don't want to be Harry, but there is no like, do you want to be Ron or do you want to be Hermione? Do you want to watch them? No, it's like. Oh, how about we let me be like Nightwing and I get to hang out with Batman? It's like, no, I want to be that guy. He's way cooler.
Yeah.
So either just take it all out and have no Harry, which that's I think the best play. The next little bit of news that we have, moving on to the Markalopolis, the dispatcher, as some would say.
What's up?
Wi-Fi is now dispatching their names in a more efficient manner, aren't they?
Wow, that was a really bad segue.
But
So
they're fun.
the
pretty
next generation Wi-Fi, AX, continuing the letter scheme. Not anymore. No. They're going to go to numbers now. So
Why would you keep going with letters? There's only 26. You got to the end, right?
You should explain to the general audience
Because-
how Wi-Fi was named beforehand, because I don't think most people know.
Well, I mean, everybody's probably seen letters of wireless. A and B were the first two, then G, then it was N, then it was AC, and it's getting ready to be AX is supposed to be the new one. So, because whatever wireless organization or standardization organization decided, no, that's too complicated. Wi-Fi 6. We're going to call it Wi-Fi 6 because it's the 6th iteration.
I always like it because it's consistent. It's like USBs, because my issue with USBs is USBs make sense. You have USB Type A, and then you had Type B, and now we have Type C. My issue with this is USB B, how it's, here's a micro and a mini and a standard, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No, it's nice. Get rid of this.
I like to think that the people who are running like the naming scheme of Wi-Fi are like, it was really successful, that iPhone thing. Like they just did like 6 and 7. We'll just go to Wi-Fi 6. Perfect.
And then there's a guy in the back of the room who's sort of like, you see what Xbox did?
Yeah.
After 6, we're just going to go with 100.
Jeez. Now, but they've actually come up with like a certification sticker too that you can look for, and they're supposed to do different colors based on which version you're looking for to make it that much simpler.
I mean,
As a person who worked in retail and had to stock these stupid things, it is really dumb because we used to have like little name tags of sections and I'm like, this is N, this is AC, this is AC plus. And you're like,
This
Get
is
it out.
dual band. This is whatever. This is no. The funny part is that other stuff, that other new technology that gets tacked onto these standards, isn't going to change. You're still going to get wireless, Wi-Fi 6 triple band or 5 band. Do any of you know what that means? No.
no, why would you need to?
I don't know. But I think it's good that they're going with a simplified naming scheme.
Yep, I agree.
Because my grandmother can understand it when I say
Absolutely.
Wi-Fi 5 or Wi-Fi 6.
And then they're going to tell her the older model is AC, and she's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Mark, what do I need?
What are you talking about? The cold air in here, Marcus. Just leave the AC alone.
I was really worried where that was going.
Here for you, buddy.
The next little bit of news that we wanted to discuss is something that you probably didn't even know still existed, and that is Google+.
Yeah.
Because there's like 14 people who still use it today, and all 14 of those seemingly just were affected by a data breach.
The number's 500,000.
Close enough.
Of active users?
No. It's just users.
I was like, no way.
okay, if you have a Google
What's worse,
account,
out of those 500,000 that got hacked, probably 17 know they have a Google+.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you didn't know, if you have a Google account, you have a Google Plus account.
Yeah.
I have 3 Google accounts. I have 3 Google Plus accounts. None of them have any information on them. But
Every YouTube channel has to have one, too. So if you have multiple YouTube channels, they all have to have their own.
So
independent
we
Google+.
have one.
Hey, it might have got breached. Who knows?
no, but apparently what happened, there was, ironically, a development API that about 500 applications use that suddenly gave them access to tons of other information and data that you could request without needing to have the access for it and without going through the proper request method for it. So as a response to this, Google's data privacy and something department said nobody uses it, shut it down.
So they just shut down Google Plus?
They're getting ready to, yeah.
It's a good play.
We're
you're not
gonna
wrong.
make those
Nope.
13 people really angry.
I mean,
They're gonna all talk to themselves for the last week.
It'd probably cost them more money to
watch,
fix it.
Watch it blow up like Club Penguin.
It's a final going away circle.
Jeez, yeah. But honestly, I don't.
Yeah.
In case you didn't know, you had a Google Plus, and if you had any data on it, that data might have gotten hacked.
This is going to
But-
be a very long and drawn-out joke that you're probably not going to find funny at all, but at this point I've committed on Twitter. So if you didn't know, Google Plus used to have these things called friend circles. And it was really cool because, if you got hammered over the weekend and you don't want your mom to see it, you could share it to your buddy's circle instead of everyone, right?
Like you can do on Facebook with groups. But sure.
Yeah,
Go
but they
ahead.
did it before the group, so to their defense. On Twitter, I saw somebody post about this breach or whatever, and then it was like adding a new Google circle, because like when you click and you get a little ad thing, and it was Google developer, and it's like adding new circle of death, all users. I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably costs them less if they're just like, shut down.
Yeah.
I mean, they're hosting sites that nobody uses.
Yeah.
Whatever. But no, the data hack though apparently they didn't make it public right away because they said not enough users were really affected, and there wasn't enough data that was actually mined. Like even then, the data that was pulled seemed like it was accidentally pulled, kind of thing. They didn't have any hint that there was malicious intent behind it. Doesn't mean there couldn't be. There were still 500,000 users who had other data, like excessive data that was pulled. But if it was stored, bad. But if not, from legitimate applications on Google's API system, it's not that bad. So.
Hashtag whatevs.
Yeah. But Google Plus is going away.
I see a lot of people using it being like, no one will ever even think about Google Plus because no one uses it anymore, and it gets hacked, and you're like, no.
No, better yet, they hack it, and it's like, oh, there's nothing here.
This is a fake account. The next bit of news, speaking of things that are dying, this isn't even out yet. It's going to die. And that is because last week, Google just threw down the hammer with its new streaming service. So then Xbox is like, we got one too.
I put it on the table.
Yeah, no, XCloud is
Great
Google
name. Great name. Quality.
Is
It's
Xbox.
almost like they called Apple and was like, you put an I out front. Why'd you do that? It's our product brand. We'll put an X out front.
Got the iMac, the
I can't
iPhone.
believe they gave up Extreme. Extreme.
Yeah.
Extreme. Like,
Yeah.
it's just perfect.
It
Take
is.
it. It's on the table.
No. Why would you do that?
That sounds just as bad.
Why would you do that when you can have a
Sounds-
system that is a
sounds
box
90s
and
rad.
you call it an
Yeah.
Xbox?
Yeah, no.
Extreme.
Because it's got
Capri Sun 90s.
Got to stay with, instead of being extreme. No, they just got to have the X, the letter X.
I really hope they
For
do
everything.
all their branding now X. I want to say instead of Microsoft Live, I hope it's just X Live. I just take everything that way.
It's like going
Yeah.
to McDonald's and it's McEverything, McNapkins.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
No, but it's a new streaming service. Ironically, the video that they showed off only had the server appliance to host the game. So far, the only thing they're going to have is first-party content. Halo, what was it?
Gears of
Sea
War.
of Thieves was on there and Gears of War. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Looks
Even
exciting.
worse
But,
news is people started getting into the Assassin's Creed streaming thing, and what I've heard is it's perfect.
Yeah, it works great.
No issues.
Yeah.
Like, I have not seen any negative discussion about it other than people can't get in.
because it's Google.
I mean, I have no doubt.
Well, I haven't heard any raves either.
That's what everybody say. It's like, hey, it's 60 frames a
I've been
second.
reading
This is
good things about
I'm
it.
surprised.
they basically are saying you get console quality in a browser no matter what you're on.
That is amazing.
And some of the people who've gotten it, obviously have gaming PCs, but then they've tried it on laptops and much inferior devices. And as long as it can play a YouTube video in 1080 60, they can play the game in 1080
I was
60.
going to say,
PlayStation
Google follows
speed.
through with this. It follows through with this. You're going to see me buy a Chromebook.
I think the big...
Yeah.
Some cheap little Chromebook with a controller. That's it.
There's two things here that made me laugh. One, the picture they used is
That's
an
amazing.
Xbox One controller with a little dock and put the phone in there. I'm like,
Yeah.
PlayStation did that 4 years ago and
Yeah.
it didn't do shit. It
Yeah.
didn't do anything. Why would you use the same exact development? Despite the fact that I think that's actually not a bad design, I would totally play that. But I think the other thing is that
For on the go, no.
you're doing it in a way that doesn't make any sense. Like, we have it set up now so that you can only play these 3 games or possibly a few others. You're not including any other partnerships, and then they literally just kind of drop this and like, we'll talk about it more later.
Yeah, my issue is
Yeah.
more of one. Granted, it's obviously impossible to compete with Google or any super mega titan like this. But Google is basically like in the span of a week, hey, we're going to do this thing. It's going to be 1080 60. You don't need requirements. Here's what it is.
Yeah.
Whereas Xbox is like, we're going to do this thing sometime. It'll happen. We're going to do these games. That's it.
Google put this out there, and Xbox is like, well, we planned on talking about this later when we were prepared, but now we have to put our hat in the ring so they know that we didn't just follow up with it. Like, we've been doing this all along. Like, we're coming.
Yeah,
Don't worry. More information is to
Except
come.
Google has a product to show
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
public.
To me, the bigger issue is the fact
Not
that
just an announcement.
I
when
know.
Xbox
It's so
announced
sad.
this, that was right before I started seeing people get in and the reviews come back.
Yeah.
It's like I saw that and I was like, that's interesting. Oh wow, people really like this. That's not good.
What's funnier to me, and I think because not next week, is it next week? They have their event in Mexico City, whenever that is, like the 18th or something like that of this month. I truly believe they were going to announce that. Like, it was going to be their microphone drop of like, guess what we got? And then Google's like, by the way, play Assassin's Creed Odyssey to Chromebook. You're like, shit. All right, here's some pictures. Here's some things. We'll get more information later.
Here's
Google.
a video about the appliance and some
Yeah.
stuff you can do with it, and it's neat.
Google came over with some microwaved pea and just put it in their Cheerios.
Yeah,
They did.
absolutely.
They use their microwave specifically.
Yeah.
That's how you get the warmest pea.
Hey, it is. It is. The next bit of news that we want to talk about is very near and dear to my heart. I don't even know if John knows this. I don't even know if you know this comes from a special place. But Todd McFarlane is doing great things
Yes.
for a very special IP.
Yeah. He is doing a strictly gonna make a child cry is his words. Rated R Spawn, which
Yep.
I'm super excited for because that's what I really, really wanted out of Venom, to
100%.
be honest. And
Have
which
you
I,
all seen Venom?
No,
Okay.
I saw the reviews and I was like, oh wait.
See, what's weird is I've seen a lot of critics review it very negatively, but from all of my friends that have seen it, they all said, like, it's worth watching.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
heard too.
It's not like, you're not going to be like, this is the greatest movie ever, but you're also not going to think it's terrible.
And the thing is, I'm gonna be disappointed because it's not what I wanted to begin with. So I'm like, it
There's
doesn't
no
really matter
carnage,
what
so
I
I'm already
watch.
disappointed.
I'm
And
probably
it's
gonna see it this-
PG-13.
I'm debating
Yeah.
about seeing it this week because I am curious enough. I'm concerned
Why?
because Todd McFarlane was also involved in the first Spawn movie with Jamie Foxx.
No.
Not Jamie Foxx. The
That's
other guy.
this
Who's
one.
the other guy? Who's the other guy?
I don't
can't
know
remember.
the
That's
actor.
another thing too. Jamie
Jamie
Foxx
Foxx
is
is
going to be the star in this, and
The issue-
Jeremy Reiner.
The issue for me is that Blumhouse is producing this film. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Blumhouse, but they're just a cheaper studio, so they usually don't spend a ton of money on CGI, which is very uncharacteristic of them. And
Well, in
Spawn
the
is CGI.
yeah, I was about to say that's going to be kind of rough. I don't know how they're going to do that
I'm hoping
because
they spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
but they just did. I think it was whatever that fighting movie was over the summer. It was like one of the highest rated movies of the summer. It's basically a guy gets like a chip put in and like takes him over and he fights people. And stuff. Something like that.
Yeah.
Apparently, it
upgrade.
had upgrade.
Upgrade,
That's
that's
right.
it, yeah.
Apparently, it had amazing choreography and they did a fantastic job on it. A super low budget and
Yeah.
like it killed.
My thing is they're not going to have like bring in Jamie Foxx and Jeremy Reiner and do a bad job. I would hope.
I would hope.
I was about to say, did you see the Venom
But-
trailer? Because they brought in
All
Tom
I'm saying
Hardy.
is this guy has come out and said he's had a hard time talking with Hollywood. He said he
Yeah.
didn't give specifics, but he's like, me trying to tell him, no, I really want to make children cry. Like this is going to be a horror movie, not Captain America like Marvel superhero. It is going to be a horror movie.
My whole issue is that if this, I know it's gonna sound weird, but if you were telling me that this was going to be a Joker movie, I think it would be much more viable because I think being so scary or rated R or gory, I don't think necessarily requires like a ton of money or ingenuity or anything like that.
Yeah.
It depends on the character. But like when you think of Spawn, you think of like monsters and beasts and hell and chains flying and all kinds of
I
weird,
loved the first
crazy
Spawn
stuff.
movie.
I mean, I
Call
think
me
it was
When was the
weirdo.
last time you watched it?
It's been a while. I've seen parts of it because
CG.
I was thinking about it,
my
but it's
God,
so
the CG is so bad.
bad.
And I also hope they don't take the approach of. Did you guys watch the HBO show, the animated show?
No,
No.
I did not.
The animated show was like, cool, we're gonna do a pilot episode, and the pilot episode was like, oh, this is like kind of Spawny, and then it was like, I think people like sex, and that's where it went.
It just became a porn.
Yeah.
I am curious to see how Todd McFarlane reacts and how the studio reacts after this new Hellboy comes out.
Yeah.
Because this new Hellboy is leaning into that horror vibe. They said explicitly over the past weekend, because they also had a panel, that we're not doing the Guillermo del Toro. This is not going to be very comic booky. It's not going to be very campy. We're leaning into this is a horror film. There are horror aspects behind it. There's going to be some blood, gore. Like that's what it will be.
Who comes out first?
Oh, definitely
Oh, yeah.
Hellboy because it's farther
Hands
in
down.
production. I think it comes out next year.
Which I'm excited for because that world will thrive in it.
Yeah, and I think the bigger piece here, though, is that they're throwing money behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, they've got producers from I think Walking Dead and directors from Get Out. So it sounds like they've got some good story people behind the story and some good people behind art direction and costume. So they might not need to rely on
Yeah, that's
CGI.
the thing.
all
That's
that
where like
much.
because they were. I was listening to some people talk about the Spawn movie, and like they were using Get Out and a couple of other examples of what Blumhouse has done recently, and they're like, while these are all fantastically written, fantastically designed movies, just something they don't do is CG. They're like they don't put money in CG. Like Get Out, there is no CG.
Yeah.
And it's like that's just what they don't do, and it's like I don't know how you do Spawn without it. Like you maybe can, and you could totally prove us wrong. You could have a great story, and we could totally be wrong. But like
He does a
The
lot of
Spawn-
hand-to-hand combat, so
Yeah, but he has chains that like come
I
out
know.
of him.
It's gonna be rough. I don't. Again,
It's
we'll
one of those things
find
where
out,
they
I
might be
guess.
able to do it, and I don't disagree, but it's probably not, if they do it, and there's basically no CG, it's not going to be what we think,
Yeah.
Yeah,
which may not be bad. I mean, we don't know. It could be cool.
it could be something totally out of left field that we weren't expecting and end up really loving.
It is interesting to listen to various creators, because Todd McFarlane also commented on the Venom movie, on like things he would change because he helped create Venom. He reminds me a lot of Alan Moore to a very different degree. Alan Moore is a comic book writer who did like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and V for Vendetta, Watchmen. Hates all the films. He actually renounced all of his rights to any money that comes from those films. He refuses to take the money. That's how vehemently he hates them.
Even V for Vendetta.
Correct.
I love that movie.
Because he writes
Seriously.
comic books a
remember that
specific
Venom
way
number.
that cannot be transformed onto screen. And I agree with that entirely.
Yeah.
His works are much more complicated.
Yeah,
than
but
the
you
movies that
sold
are
the
on them.
rights. I mean,
He
literally,
didn't
you
sell the
had to
rights.
have known that.
He didn't
I
sell the
would've
rights.
given it to a
DC
chick.
did, because DC is the publisher he went with at the time.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
sad.
So he vehemently hates that stuff. But his opinions do help shape some of the films for better or worse. And so having the
Yeah.
creator come out and be a part of it, I do think is important. But it's also interesting to note that they are not filmmakers. So having talented people who are able to translate that is also important.
He said he's being kind of nitpicky about everything, so I'm really hoping that he gets his picture that he wants.
Yeah, I agree.
The next little bit of news we have is the creators of Danganronpa. I think it is.
Danganronpa
Danganronpa.
and
How do you say
Virtue's
that?
Last Reward.
Is it Tukoi?
I can't. I wasn't gonna
Tokyo.
Tukoi?
Tokyo.
Tokyo.
Because it's Tokyo.
Tokyo, but with
Tokyo.
Tokyo.
Why would you do that? Why would you say Tokyo?
Tokyo.
Because they're the ones that made the company. We had no part in naming that company.
I think it's a pun, kind of, because the
It's like
two
Flow
of them,
Rider?
the
Yeah.
two of them.
Oh.
Tokyo.
From Tokyo.
No,
Well, would
no,
it be 2WO? It's T-O.
that's not how you spell it.
That's also.
Yeah.
Also Q.
Yes. Are you done?
Little rant
Having
there
your temper
about
tantrum?
Tokyo. The creators from Danganronpa. I'm not going to butcher their names out of respect for you.
Like we
And
did their, company name.
yeah, after that, I was like, I'm not going to do it. And Virtue's Last Reward, which we talked about earlier, how much we absolutely love those games. Played all of those games on Vita, which I don't regret. And as a matter of fact, I have it downstairs, but I need to pull it out. Do I need to remind you what it
It's
looks
one of
like?
the Vita
It's still Vita
It's
Live.
one of the last
Vita
14
Life.
remaining consoles.
The
We both have two. So.
yeah. Matter of fact, I got us the Danganronpa special editions from Japan.
That's cool.
Yeah, freaking love them. They're beautiful. I got the black
Could
one.
be
He
a
got the white
collector's
one.
item in 15, 20 years.
I mean, it technically is right now.
Yeah. But what's really cool is that they were talking about more in depth about the game that's coming out and what they're going for. But at the same time, I'm kind of and they have multiple projects. They've only
I was gonna
announced
say,
one.
This is
One of four. I
They've
think.
announced 3. One of them's an animation. One of them's a game, and they have a really vague concept for a second game. that
Yeah.
they just haven't really talked
They're
about.
gonna. This is their last school kill game though.
Yeah.
So it's what's the name of it? It's blanking me right now.
Yeah, you're looking at the wrong person.
I-
'Cause I didn't research this
Oh my
topic.
God.
Fortunately,
Kill game.
that sounds right.
Something like that. I'm really excited because they actually brought up a couple of interesting points for me.
Death March Club?
Huh?
Yep.
It's called Death March Club?
Yep.
Yes. And is that the storytelling aspect from one of the creators is going to be heavily relied upon, where the character aspect from one creator is going to be heavily relied upon, because Danganronpa was very good at character development, creating these personalities and being able to portray them, whereas Virtue's Last Reward was so meant like on the scale of giving you a story and being able to portray that story the way it was meant to be is masterful. So seeing these two people come together and the way that they described everything, it just opened up another door in my brain that I was like excited for. Now I'm really excited for it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
Danganronpa's Kazutaka Kodaka and Zero Escapes Kotaro Uchikoshi.
Uchikoshi.
Yeah. And so they're the writer.
Uchikoshi.
They're the writer-directors behind these series, which I think is important because they
Yes.
don't handle game mechanics. They're just in charge of the overall image and idea of where these games are going,
Yeah, and all their crew come from Spike. All their crew came from Spike Chunsoft.
which is the publishers behind both those games.
And
That's cool.
and they're like, hey, even if this goes under and it doesn't work, no one's going to be destitute. No one's going to have to be like totally reliant upon this project. And so it sounds like this is going to be a really stable environment for this game to come out of, and I'm super excited.
It is really interesting because Spike Chunsoft and the other publishers that are like that, the smaller titles from Japan. They do tons of experimentation. Danganronpa and Virtue's Last Reward are perfect examples of that, but they also have to be like viable products for them to continue on. And I do believe that they were running their course with Danganronpa and Zeroscape. They're afraid of where to go from here. So having them, the departure was amicable. There was no fight here. Even the employees that left to join them, there wasn't like a rivalry or anything on. Spike Chunsoft was basically like, we can't pay for your games anymore, so you got to make them yourself. They're like, cool, we got this.
Yep.
So it's wonderful to see them kind of grow, and hopefully they find success because I love their content.
Unfortunately, it is only coming to PC in 2020.
We've had this conversation.
I understand, and we're going to explain to them that part of the conversation.
Correct. The fact that it's a Japanese developer makes it less likely that it'll be a PC exclusive for very long, if at all. Mostly because the PC attachment rate isn't bad there, but it's not great.
And Brent's favorite saying, the barrier to entry.
The barrier to entry is
Said it
super
like
low
20
on
times
PC.
today.
So
What if Google has a streaming service?
I was about to say, hosted by Google
yeah,
2020.
I mean,
Yeah,
it
right.
very well could be, depending on how fast this catches on. But I imagine it's going to find a partnership with PlayStation or Nintendo relatively quickly. As they
All
get
of
closer
those
to it.
games have been on PlayStation Plus. There's no way they're not going to try to grab
I would be
this
very curious because I feel like a lot of those games, like, granted, I don't play a lot of those games, but I just hear the things and the stuffs about the world, and like, what is the one? I think I asked you about it.
Nino Kuni.
Nino Kuni.
Yeah.
That one like kind of super blew up on Steam. I
Yeah.
feel like, and I feel like there's definitely a good potential of like a Steam popularity just blown up.
Nino Kuni 1 had such a hype behind it. It was ridiculous.
Dude, I never even knew what it was, and then I hear everyone
It was
talking
like
about
it looked like it was going to be a Pokemon essentially, and it kind of was.
basically was. Yeah. It had the gotcha, like catch 'em all. What Nino Kuni 1 was actually a lot.
It was
of fun.
the preamble to Pokemon Go because you're like feeding it candy and stuff.
What was the other one that blew up on Steam, and it was like the Doki Doki
Literature Club. That's something completely different. It's made by a little indie developer.
Is that even a Japanese developer?
I don't think so.
Just
I
an
think it was
American
emulating the
dude.
style.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
I was just another one. It's like I saw like on Steam. It
Yeah.
was like this game is
That
nothing.
game
It's
is
like whoa.
super weird because
Yeah.
it takes a hard left.
Which is a very Japanese way
Yeah.
of doing things.
These games have recently made their way to Steam. They are on Steam and they're popular there. But I do believe that the way
Love Child won't let it go.
Yeah, I just looking at how Japanese companies can maintain relationships is very important to them. Not only that, they're very much about supporting their own culture, their own country. So therefore, they would love to partner with PlayStation because that's populating like
Their
Japanese.
And it's close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be easy.
I think they'd rather do that. Plus, I mean, let's be honest, Steam is great for consumers. It is a nightmare for developers.
Yeah.
I
Hey,
mean,
Tukio, Vita.
if you're releasing on Steam today and you don't have something big, or you're not that 1 in a million like diamond in the rough, you are having a hard time. Who was that recently came out talking about Steam sale financials, about how terrible it was for their games?
Yeah, I mean, the Steam sale financials I feel like is a worse of a catch-22 than like this because they were comparing it to the Psyonix Rocket League free on PlayStation Plus, and they're basically saying like when Steam does this, they basically like just ask for your approval and then they just do it.
Yeah,
And then you can say no, then they're not going to put your thing on sale, so you get no hyper marketing.
yeah,
If you say yes, then they're going to put your stuff on sale, but you might not make any money because they take everything that it would cost to wipe.
yeah,
And it's like, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, do we want people to play our game? Yeah. Are you going to make money? No.
yeah. It's a tough one. I mean, big publishers can get away with it because they make lots of money anyways, and then the little guy, it's that.
That's
it's
why a
that
lot of times you'll
gamble.
see like Stardew Valley, like it'll maybe only go on sale for 30% off.
Yeah.
Whereas like you'll see like the most recent EA game go on sale for like 90% off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, can you dictate how much it goes on sale for?
I'm not certain. It doesn't seem like the, I guess, smaller devs get that much power. It seems like Steam is like, we want to do this, yes or no. No, okay. And that's it.
Man, that's not nice.
And I think they get like 30%.
Steam gets 30% of
Yeah.
all sales. Yeah. Steam, PlayStation, Xbox, they're all 30%.
Yeah.
The big issue I think is that they basically dictate that and they don't allow.
Who was
for
the
any
company
wiggle
that changed that?
No, it was Fortnite being a-holes and skipping Google to
Yeah,
not pay the 30.
they just-
Well, no, I remember that.
They
part.
pay Apple's 30, but
No,
they
there
don't
was-
pay
there was
Google's.
Nintendo's 32.
I could have swore that someone was changing.
GOG was talking about how they changed their system for their store because it's all DRM free and stuff like
Okay.
that. Yeah.
The next little bit of news that we wanted to bring up, because we were actually just roughly speaking about the Switch.
Meandering.
Yeah, meandering.
That's what you're trying to say.
It seems that the Switch could get a Pro model or a new model or something.
A revamp or an improvement upgrade of some kind.
I've seen so much stuff about this, and to your thing, of just like all the possibilities of what they could do.
Yeah.
Like from making it like a Pro version where it's meant to be like more like a controller, and like you can't play the Joy-Cons both ways, you play it one way, or the most simple one to me is like get rid of the 5-inch bezel on that thing. Jesus.
That's what some people talk about.
You could just keep the same exact ratio, just get rid of the bezel. Christ.
Yeah. They're talking about, I mean, there's a lot of hype around the low end, they call it low end LCD screen, but I don't find it to be that way. I think the picture's fine for what it is. I don't know. I think most of the stuff that we're talking about was mainly the defects.
We're not visual snobs.
Yeah. No, I kind of am sometimes, but not with Nintendo.
To me, it's not about the visual aspect of it. To me, it's about the optimization aspect. Zelda, and granted, this is totally like the first game that came out on, so whatever. But like, Zelda was so not optimized to be docked. It played like 500% better in handheld mode. If you
never once put it in the. I have yet to put it in the dock.
Because like it would like legit be like moments of gameplay and combat would be like 10-15 frames, and you're like,
wow,
what is this? And then
I thought it was supposed to increase its fidelity, putting it in the dock.
So in some games it is way more stable in the dock. Other games it is way more stable in mobile. They just don't optimize. Yeah, the developers sometimes optimize for certain aspects. And I assume when they first, they could have patched Zelda, maybe it's way better now.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it was like very evidently optimized for handheld and not for docking. And you're like,
they're talking about it coming out second half of 2019. Yeah. Which, I mean, to be honest, that's fine by me.
No one's gonna know.
No.
I'm telling you right now, what they're gonna do is that they're gonna they may do a DSi where they're like, hey, guess what? You can't put your Game Boy cartridge in here, and it has a little bit of memory. Like, it's just gonna be, we had all the defects. We use better plastic now. It's out. Like, it's replacing the old model.
Here's a better screen. We fixed the battery issue. You're no longer having the expansion issue with the plastic.
So you're going with it's a DSi and not it's a 3DS to 2DS.
Yeah, like the amount of hype that is going out there. They're like, they're going to make a handheld only mode. Or I'm like, no, they're not. They're just, this thing is selling like hotcakes. Why f with it? It's fine.
Well, it is Nintendo.
It's
Give them credit.
Upgrade, maybe better visuals, better audio, and that'd be about it.
You get a
better buttons, something like.
You leave it the same price, get a better screen so it's more battery efficient, and you make sure that the battery stops
The Wii U is legitimately their only mess up.
Screen
Virtual Boy.
Okay.
Can we just iterate the battery life part? If they could just make the battery life not poo-poo.
They need to not use the screen they're using. The screen they're using just
inefficient. And that's what another thing they were talking about is possibly going to a more efficient screen.
Honestly, I really think
it's higher quality too.
And that's what I thought about when seeing people talking about if they did a Pro model. Now, granted, maybe not the crazy stuff of the Joy-Cons aren't rotating on the Pro model or whatever, just the Joy-Cons themselves. I was thinking if they did a Pro model where they did much like an OLED screen, like make a premium one, maybe it's an extra $100 or $200, but it's an OLED screen, which would probably double the battery life because they're hyper efficient. Blacks are basically no powered.
Yeah.
That's weird. That's really weird.
That's fantastic.
I'm getting a call from my grandmother, which I'm going to ignore, unfortunately. It tells me on my touch bar.
Huh.
That was weird.
I have to wonder if that's they before that really got pushed through to whoever, Wall Street or whoever was really talking about it. The cloud-based system was so that way when these new Switches were coming out, people were going to be comfortable with it, so that way they could transfer everything and not have to worry about.
I mean, I think that's a good hedging your bets of maybe, hey, we're going to get the prosumer, like the people who got a PlayStation Pro. A Pro version you could upgrade up, or maybe they make a cheaper version.
I mean, think about it.
So that's
are the Joy-Cons going to be completely different too? Because if they are, then that means that if they're not, then that means you can literally go buy the screen and then reattach it, and you've got your upgrade.
So, looking at the history of Nintendo consoles throughout their entire span from the 80s
go down,
onwards,
not up.
What?
You go down,
they
not up.
always go down.
Yeah.
They never go up. The only time they've ever gone up was the new 3DS, and it didn't sell at all.
Really?
Yeah. They almost always make something less powerful, cheaper, easier for kids to play with.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think the best example is the Game Boy Advance, the Game Boy Advance SP. It was like, we're going to make this smaller, we're going to make it foldable, and I think it was like $30 cheaper or something.
Yeah, it was $30 cheaper, and they added a backlight because that was the biggest complaint. They're just notorious for that. They aren't looking for, they're not like Xbox or PlayStation want to rule the living room. They're looking for the play to the parents.
And I think that they're definitely kind of looking for that sweet spot of like, well, we're still cheaper than a PlayStation and Xbox if you're looking for something for your kid for Christmas.
Yeah.
Which makes sense for the second half of 2019.
What if this is the play to fuse the DS markets?
That would be wonderful. Kill it dead.
No,
I don't
really?
understand. Yeah, I don't understand why they have 3DS games still coming out. I mean, I do understand. There's a large consumer base.
Yeah.
They're dead.
There's a lot of reason.
My issue is that why don't you just put them on Switch?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. That's how you kill it.
They're not doing a Pokemon game at all this year, right? I mean, I don't.
Yeah,
count.
Not a real one. No.
it
Just
is a
that
real game,
terrible
sir.
game.
It's $60 worth of Pokemonage. Okay.
I can't wait for your disappointment.
I'm not going to buy it.
Oh, when has this changed?
Since,
Last week.
honestly, I have better things to play.
Okay.
And I'm not in a rush.
Okay.
Not that I won't buy it. I'm just not, oh, it's coming out in November. Got to get it right now.
I just want to let you know I was hyped to get it.
Episode count? I just need to keep track of this because
It changes back and forth.
Find out.
Well, I very well might get a spur up my butt and be like, guess what I got, bro? Woohoo!
You see, my issue is I was actually going from like the this is dumb, I don't want to get it to like, you know what? I'll try it, and then I re-looked into it. I was like, this is exactly why I never wanted this in the first place.
Yep.
Jesus. Can't even make random encounters.
I just wanted a little bit of nostalgia in my world and seeing
I
it.
understand.
Like, it would have been.
I
nice.
wanted it too.
Do you want to?
Shot all over it.
No, they just pooped all over the future version.
Do you just want to, walk up to a Pikachu and you want to catch it and hold that little ball and?
I hated Pikachu. I really did. I mean, hate me if you want to. I hated Pikachu.
I don't hate you. Pikachu's just it's a great mascot.
Yeah.
It's a terrible Pokemon. It has a weird competitive scene where because they're like, hey, guess what? Pikachu's really cool, so we're gonna give it an item that like increases all of its special stats like super high. Also, we're gonna give it this crystal so it can use a special attack that does like 260 damage base. It's awesome. Like what are you doing? That's more powerful than like half the attacks Mewtwo has. This makes no sense at all. That's right. If you blow on it, it dies.
That's because they want it to be popular.
I know.
Yeah.
Well,
Force it.
Well, they don't want it to. People love it.
Yeah.
Like it is insane. In Japan, the two most popular Pokemon, Pikachu and Eevee. Hence the Pikachu and Eevee games.
Yep.
Wow.
So
Well, Eevee is just you've got your variation, and
He's the
Pikachu
best.
was the first one. I mean, you can't. I don't hate. Okay, I hate the way
Pikachu's not number
Pikachu
one, right?
is. I just
Pikachu's
wish
like
it was
26.
better.
26, correct. Proud of you.
It was a shot in the dark. Shot in the dark.
I really just wanted to play with Eevee.
That was.
I know.
I know.
I'm gonna buy a lottery ticket.
You should.
That's crazy. Had 151 options.
Yeah, that's
You
great.
technically had like
You could buy a lottery
781,
ticket.
but yes.
Whatever.
You could buy a lottery ticket and go
I
for
just
like
knew
1
that
to
it wasn't
1.3
the first
million.
9. I knew it wasn't like the last, 5. This is all I had.
Pretty good odds.
God,
This has been
the important
Stuff.
The important
the important
Stuff.
shit.
Stuff.
Proud of you for censoring yourself. We're gonna move over to the dispatcher to talk about technology.
So
Techno.
everybody knows about all the top end stuff that comes out. Your 1080s, your 1070s, your RTX, 2020 whatever 2070 Ti's and whatnot.
numbers.
Yeah,
Lots of
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah, your graphics hardware, even like your top tier processors, like your Core i7s, Core i9s, that kind of thing. But
I didn't realize we're doing algebra on the show.
you do have to remember that I'm just gonna ignore it. If you do have to remember that the lower tier hardware does exist.
Yeah.
So you have even your base model Xbox, ones that still come out, your base model PlayStations that are still out. The question is, do you guys see a reason to purchase any of that? Like lower spec laptops, lower spec consoles, lower spec graphics cards, whatever. Like my thing is that I see a lot of this that gets advertised. I see a lot of like you have your cheap version of the Chromebook and then you have your expensive version of the Chromebook. And the only reason I can justify having a cheap version of the Chromebook is because Chrome OS doesn't take anything to run. But if you're running like large scale games, or if you're trying to play like new titles for Xbox, new titles for PlayStation, that kind
It's
of
a
thing.
toaster.
Like
It's a toaster.
But that's the thing. They're getting like we had this discussion last week where they're getting better for those pro models, for the Xbox One X, for the upscale models, because they know they have the better hardware to work.
There was
with.
a reason
Developers
for
know
the
that.
advancement.
Right. Do you see a reason to go back to the old spec anymore? Do you see a reason to go to the lower spec anymore?
I was
Other than a financial reason, of course.
For the grandparents coming to be, maybe.
I think an interesting point is I was reading this thing on the 2080 because I don't know, we always buy dumb technology that we don't really need.
Yeah.
So I was like looking at the 2080 and the 2080 Ti, which is like the newest graphics card now. It's the best of the best. It's like $1,000. And I was like, man, there's no, I don't really need this. Like, but is it worth the upgrade? Like, what would I get out of it? And when I was reading this article, it was like comparing the 20 series to the 10 series. And it was talking about like, should you buy the 2080, which is the 2080 Ti, which is the highest, or 2080, which is a step below, or the 70, or the what's going to be the 60? Which one is going to be the best? And they were comparing it to the 9 series because its whole life is basically over now. They're not being produced anymore. Just the 10 series are being produced. So they were comparing to the 9 series. On the 9 series, the margins on the 980 Ti were the highest margins of any of their units. And I want to say it was like 30-some% was like what they made per unit. It's like a $700 card. So they make, what is that, like $210 a card roughly, right?
Yeah.
The 960, its margins are only like, I think it's like 7 or 8%. And it's like, I think it's like a $250 card, something like that.
Yeah.
The 960 is more profitable than the 980 Ti. They sold so many units of the cheaper version that it made more money than the one that made 7 times the profit margin.
Which is terrifying for me to think of because 960 has roughly a third of the performance what the
Yeah.
970 has. 970, I'll put it this way, 970 I can run Rocket League at about 60 to 100 frames. But whenever we were playing Blackout, I was running it probably about 45 on mid settings.
Okay.
Like new games, I can't compete. You know,
Wow.
running a graphics card that's now 3 generations old.
Yeah.
2 generations old.
So it's only 6 months ago.
Basically.
Kind of, yeah.
It's very interesting to me because while we can all sit up here and be like, is there a market for this? It seems that there is a massive market for
Yes.
this. And I'm just like, I don't get it, but I'm also, I guess, coming from a position of privilege where it's like, I would rather save up and buy one really, really awesome thing
Right.
instead of buy something I need to upgrade every couple of years.
And actually, that's surprising to hear because the recommendation has always been across the board from any time you look at anybody who says, you know, well, I'm going to do a review of the 950. Well, this thing's awful. Just wait the extra 6 months and buy like the 980, you know.
Yeah.
Or now with the RTX, you know, stuff. Yeah, okay, fine. It might be worth it, you know, with the RTX 2070 and maybe the 2060 because you're still going to get a marginal improvement of performance over the 10 series or something like that. Cool, I get that. But like this also extends into other things, you know, even like purchasing a laptop for processing power or what you're going to do with it, you know, like phones even.
Well, let's look at it this way. If like video editing tools or something like that you're using only require a certain bandwidth, then fine. But if you're going for playing high-end games, you're going to have to invest.
Mm-hmm.
It all just depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I definitely think that's the big thing here. Like, I don't recommend I don't recommend a PS4 Pro for anyone if I'm just telling them, unless they specifically care about that graphics capability, or they're trying to use 5G Wi-Fi because it's the regular cap.
And I think another big selling point, especially we saw in the past 2 years, is VR.
Yeah.
So as soon as VR started coming out, I was like, man, the 980 is really only a shot for VR. You can do it with the 970, but it's bad. And then when the 10 series came out, they're like, you can play VR in a 1060. And then that's like, oh, cool. Everybody just buy a 1060 if you want to play in VR.
Yep.
And it's like, it was never like the 1080 looks way better in VR.
Yeah.
It's like the 1060 can do it. So people are like, 1060, that's what I'm
Done.
getting. I want to play VR.
That to me says like the push for VR, like, hey, we're going to try to do everything we can to keep this alive, you know.
Yeah.
I think there's also, I mean, you look at, we were just talking about Nintendo, there are companies that purposefully downgrade. The 2DS is one of those examples, and it sold like hotcakes. I mean, there are aspects there. There's obviously a market there.
Oh, yeah.
The cheaper price point plus the fact that they don't have to worry so much because it's cheaper. It's
And I'm
And look at the person using it. If you're giving this to a 12-year-old, he throws it on the floor. I could buy 2 of those for the price of that one, and it's not a big deal.
It's not even that to me. It is, if you look on YouTube, like just looking at YouTubers, if you look at like DIY PC builds, like best PC builds, you go to like Tom's Hardware or PC Part Picker and look at the most popular builds. They're always budget builds.
Yeah.
It's never, this is what you can do with $6,000 a computer. It's like $500, 4K. Let's go.
I mean, that makes the most sense,
Yeah.
though, if you're talking about the
That'd be
people
cool.
who build their own PCs and have the most expensive stuff, and then everyone who's at least trying it for the first time, that spectrum is going to be much larger at the bottom. So,
Most of those guys actually try to spend anywhere between $800 and $1,000. I did a build actually for my dad like this And actually, I'd throw 960 in his because that was the better option for him. He plays World of Tanks, and that's literally all he plays on it. Like maybe Train Simulator actually.
We need to get him and Brian hooked up.
But
Todd, have you seen the new semi-truck simulator game?
No.
Which one?
I don't know.
Did you just interrupt him?
This was very relevant because
American or European?
I don't know. It's either American or European. Either I was watching a dude stream this the other day because it was just on, and I clicked it by mistake, and it is legit. Dude, just watching it, he is checking his screens, driving by, honking at people, CBing and stuff. I was like,
all I'm saying is you get that European trash out of here.
European Truck Simulator was the OG.
European trash. America.
you got to drive on the right side of the road.
Freedom.
Actually, that's why they.
My favorite's
Buick
Tractor.
LeSabre.
Actually, that's why they created an American Truck Simulator. 'cause
Right side of the road is right, boy.
Thank you.
Or the Goat Simulator. That's my favorite.
That is the best simulator.
That is the best one. No, but built a computer for my dad anyway. Specifically, put a 960 in it because he's not going to need anything better. You know, that kind of thing. And I like he was like, well, like how many frames am I going to get on it? And I'm like, I don't know, 60
Why do
to 100?
frames matter on Train Simulator? Train.
No. Well, World of Tanks is what he plays most often. But he wanted something that was going to be a solid gaming rig, something that was actually going to be usable, something that wasn't going to quite break the bank. And I told him you kind of have to skimp on a graphics card to make that happen.
Yeah. Also,
because the other side of that is RAM is extremely expensive and storage is extremely expensive now, especially if you want to get the proper drive.
Storage, man. It's interesting to look at market trends, but I mean, I think there's always going to be a larger market for the lower spec. I mean, look at Chromebooks. Chromebooks sell like crazy. My younger brother's like, I need a laptop for school. I'm like, well, what are you doing? It's like, I'm answering email, writing Word documents. Like, cool, get a Chromebook.
Yeah.
$200. That's all you need.
Well, so on the
And
other,
if money wasn't an issue, though, it'd be like, oh, get the Surface Pro, but that's $3,000.
Yeah.
Like that's the cool option.
Even
but
then.
do you need that?
well,
like-
then on the other side of that spectrum, then have higher end graphics cards, higher end hardware gotten unreasonable.
See, I think it's more similar to the car world because like, no matter what, like people want to drive a Lamborghini or Ferrari, like that's what you want. But what people are going, minus Brent because he's weird, he wants to drive a tank. What most people are going to do though is they're going to type in like best car under 30,000, and then they're going to look at the best car under 30 grand. That's not to say that the $30,000 car market isn't the best because obviously you can spend $100,000 or $500,000 or whatever and probably get something way better, but people aren't going to do that. There's a group of people who can do that, and they constantly do that. Just like in the PC world and even in gaming. Like, there are people who don't need the 4K fidelity for Spider-Man or God of War or whatever, but they're like, hey, I'm going to spend $500 on a console and $1,000 on a TV, and I want to see Spider-Man with more pixels. And then there's everybody else who's like, I can see it just fine for less money.
And it still looks fairly beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm the perfect example because the only reason I wanted a Pro was for that 5G Wi-Fi card. Like that's the only reason. Everything else is like it's fine. I'm not buying a 4K TV anytime soon. I have everything runs well. I don't have issues here.
My only reason was a reason I didn't even know. I just did it because I wanted a cool console. But I kind of
bored.
I kind of did want it for the HDR and just the 4K-ness, but then if I would not have gotten the God of War one, I would have 100% got one from Blackout because of the load times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it. And the load times I didn't really notice before. You did bother me so much when we were playing with our friend Sean. We would play Destiny, and he would just load into a mission like legit 90 seconds before us. And I'm like, why? Why does this always happen? I have a Pro. God almighty.
He also has Google Fiber. Do you have Google Fiber?
I do not, but I can go as fast as the PlayStation can handle.
Anything you can do, I can do better.
Yeah.
I mean, I did it for the upgraded Wi-Fi card as
The
well.
Wi-Fi's. You don't hardwire?
Yeah.
You do hardwire?
Yeah. In case I needed it.
Okay. I was like, what?
I'm a prepper, man. You never know.
All right.
It's like, oh my God, my landline's busted for some reason.
I do agree with Dylan. I do think it's like the car. There for every industry, there's always going to be the boutique aspect behind it. Are they
$1,200 graphics card?
Are they unreasonable? Maybe for some people, but for others, they're not, and that's what they're into. That's fine. Right. That's your thing. The market will self-adjust. Like if they get to a point where boutique people are not buying, they're going to have to look at it and go, hey, guess what? Maybe we're upgrading a little too fast.
That's where capitalism actually works.
Yeah.
It's definitely interesting because we've also seen it we've seen it in the weirdest way. When I first got into gaming, a game called Crysis had just came out and like destroyed the graphics card market because a wave of graphics card came out, and then like 6 months later, the new graphics card series came out, and Crysis came out with it, and the gen before couldn't play Crysis, and it's like you have stuff that's 8 months old that cannot play a game, and everyone's like, "What is this?"
Yeah, it's because graphics hardware was booming at that point.
Yeah.
But I think even then was a moment of like, I feel like it forced people to be on the high end, and for some weird reason, the market was like, I guess that's what we got to do, and it worked.
Yeah, and everybody bought
new stuff.
Yeah, like $600, $700 graphics cards because that was the top tier price point at that point.
And it was like, that's the only way you can play our game, and it was like, for some reason, people were like, all right, cool.
All right,
I feel like if they did that now, though, people were like, that game. I'm going to play Fortnite, cartoons.
Realistically, I don't think there's a whole lot we can go up more with graphical fidelity that we're just sort of getting past a point of art anymore. Like,
Like I don't know. I was
you play
best.
Madden NFL. Like,
Yeah,
it looks good. It looks realistic. It's just
it's really
like,
it's odd to me seeing like I guess you always see something that's better. But I was at Best Buy the other day, and the Canapolis store has a Magnolia section, which is like their very premium stuff, or whatever. And they had like their new Samsung 4K Ultra 144 hertz like crazy TV or whatever. And it was like looking at it, and they're like 4K full max spec demo thing. I was like, all right, that does look really good.
Yeah.
That looks pretty amazing, honestly.
But you have to meet all of these qualifications
Yeah.
to do this.
It's like one that's like a $5,000 TV. Two, no matter what, even if I buy the $500 PlayStation, it's not gonna look like that.
Yeah.
No.
True.
I think it's necessary. I like both ends of the spectrum. Just
Yeah,
like the
I
car
think
world.
it's
I
fine.
would like to be on the top end of the car world.
Like,
but
I remember
I'm
when-
searching for the best under 30K.
My brain had such a hard time adjusting to 4K. When my friend got a TV, it was a small little TV. It's probably like this big. And he's like, yeah, this is like $1,500. And I'm like, what?
What?
That doesn't make any sense.
Oh, that was.
And I was watching it, and I was like getting motion sickness. And I'm like, oh,
You
my
try
God.
explaining to one of your... when I got my iPhone X last year, I got the 256. So with like taxes and everything, I think it was like a little over $1,200.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I was explaining at a holiday to my grandmother basically what it was, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about getting me one of them phones. How much is that thing? A couple $100?" And I was like, $1,000 more dollars than a couple $100. But yes, and she was just like, "That's $1,000 in your hand." I was like, "I'm not proud of it. I'm really not." But yes, it is.
I'm not proud of the Google event coming up here.
I'm very curious what they're gonna do. But
I'm inching towards that pre-order button maybe.
Speaking of technology in your
Pixel?
hand,
Really?
let's move on to my topic, which is bad habits that are created with technology.
Pre-ordering as soon as something gets dropped at $1,500.
That's a wonderful example. I was thinking yesterday as I was walking around my house staring at my two phones playing Pokemon Go, and then put one down to turn on a podcast, and then walked outside and realized I didn't have my headset on. I was like, I have my two dogs here, and I'm playing ball with them. And I had the urge to run upstairs and grab a headset so I could listen to something. I was like, why am I doing this? Like, I don't need to I don't need to be inundated with something all the time. So I sat out there for a grueling 15 minutes, played ball, and afterwards I was like, man, that actually wasn't too bad. This is a terrible habit of mine I've picked up, where I have to be doing something on my phone constantly. And I was wondering what other bad habits have been picked up here.
So one, the being on your phone thing, I didn't really get to a point where I felt like I didn't need to be on my phone. It was just I felt like, we had talked a very long time ago about like how when we used to go out to eat all the time, it quickly became where it'd be like 5 of us are out to eat and all of us are like showing each other pictures on Instagram. So whenever we're not showing pictures on Instagram, there's just 5 of us like this.
Yeah. Man.
Right? So that's when I was like, I'm just going to, whenever we go out to eat, I'm not going to take my phone in my pocket. So then from there, I was like, okay, cool. So then it quickly became of like, I'm staring at 4 people on their phone to then I was like, I'm going to talk to Mark. And now me and Mark are not on our phones. And just kind of transpired from there. And then it was more of, like at work, I'll listen to stuff on music. But then with iOS 12, when I was in the beta, they did the time restrictor apps or whatever, right? So you can basically limit. So I'll give myself like, cool, I get 30 minutes of social media a day. If I use it all in the morning before work, whatever. I can obviously override it, but it's one of those things. It's really annoying. And I was like, whatever. I'm just not going to check Instagram. I'm just not going to check whatever.
Yeah.
And just that little bit had just like, I went from when I I used the screen, whatever, checker thing or whatever, and I was using my phone on average for, I think, like 4 hours and 57 minutes a day, roughly, like right at 5 hours. And now I use my phone like a little over 2 hours a day.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
It's like more than half. I don't even think I use my phone that much, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Really glad about that.
Okay. I've tried to get better.
Yeah.
I've tried to make as much of a conscious effort as I can to keep my phone in my pocket, to not have my phone out distracted around that kind of thing, because I've had relationships in the past in particular where it's like we're together doing something and you're just kind of hanging on your phone there, like, and I'm just sort of staring at you like,
Yeah.
what am I doing here?
You should message them on the phone.
I did that once
That's
actually.
amazing. Didn't work out well.
You'd know the person. You'd know the person.
I've got a good
idea. And they just kind of looked at me like, oh, sorry, that kind of thing, embarrassed, get flushed in the face, and just sort of like put the phone away, and then
Apologize 12 times.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I've noticed more people, like my mom's really bad about this now too. Like my mom likes to complain about the millennials, who are constantly on their phones, and Gen Z who are constantly on their phones and tablets and whatnot. But I think a lot of us actually have gotten to a certain age now where it's like, why am I on this constantly? Like, why am I just sort of drowning all of my time into this now? That kind of thing. Now, granted, majority of us here work in tech.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's kind of difficult work, especially, when you do like I do mobile app development a lot. So it requires me to be in front of my phone a lot.
Yeah.
Like it requires me to be on my phone. But I try to block out anything that would point me towards distractions, like my own time, that kind of thing. Honestly, the worst one for me, stepping away from mobile phones, is YouTube.
Yeah.
It's a rabbit hole, man.
really
Yeah.
bad.
If I am sitting at my desktop, we'll be playing a video game or something like that, talking, like I'll be doing research on something, I'll be doing software development, and I'll have YouTube up, and then I'll be like, yeah. And then I'll realize after I've gotten through a 26-minute video that I'm like, I did nothing for that 26 minutes. And then I'll close the tab and I'll go back to doing work, that kind of thing. Because, your brain can only really function on one conscious thing at a time.
Don't tell him that because he doesn't believe it. It's literally freaking been proven that you can't multitask at 100%, but he doesn't believe it. He's the best multitasker in the
That's
world.
what Brent just does is he pauses and starts so fast you can't even tell.
Just like he goes outside and plays ball with his dogs and forgot that he played ball with his dogs because he was listening to a podcast.
That's not that I forgot. It was just.
No, I'm saying you will. Like, you'll be like, oh, I was listening to the podcast. Hey, how many times did I throw that ball? I don't know. Did my dog do something really cool when I was throwing that ball? I don't know.
What would be really funny
The best part is that I'm not watching.
What would be really funny is if you come over and he's playing ball with the dogs, listening to the podcast, and you come in, and you, like, open his back door, and you're like, hey, Brent, what are you doing? He's like, I'm playing ball with the dog, and he's just throwing it. And then you're just like, the dogs are inside, Brent. Oh, okay.
The most of my issues relies with other people and their technology because I'm
Texting driving.
Huh?
Texting driving.
Yeah, that too. That kind of sucks.
As a motorcycle rider, I'm a stickler for that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's where other people can't pull themselves away from it. Me myself, my main habits are video games when I'm off of work, so that's all I really got because I'm such an active person. I don't really have too much. Oh, anytime you guys get a Facebook, I don't know, little snippet or a text message, it's because I'm on the toilet. So I want you to know that every time you get something from me, it's mostly on the toilet.
See, I've always found that very interesting that most people do that because I feel like my friends, my roommates, people at work, whatever, I'll always get messages when they go poop. And I'm like, what are you doing in there? I go in there on a mission. That's it. It is to go in, it is to poop, and it is to get out.
Dylan, what used to happen on the other end of that?
Well, sometimes it was long missions. Hard fought missions.
Not very segmented.
What would you usually share with the rest of us afterwards? While you're
they would be.
I'm going to share this. I'm going to send that picture. And then at the end of it, go on.
A fantastic trophy.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's a good one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're all good.
Did you seriously take a picture of your
Apparently he did.
A lot.
It got me on the habit of doing it, too.
The only time I'll ever do it when I got like a 12-inch monster that's coming
out of the water. All those equality.
Yeah, and I'm like, I did this.
I grew up in a house with lots of brothers and then just family around all the time. That was my only quiet time. So now it's a terrible habit where it's like, I'm going to take a book in, I'm going to go sit here, get comfy, All right. Wow, it's been 40 minutes. I should probably get out of the bathroom.
Yeah, right. And your legs are going numb, and you're like, oh my god.
I was gonna say at my previous employer, you'd have known if that's what I was going to the restroom to do, because I'd bring my headphones with me. I'd have my phone, maybe a battery pack charger. If my phone was low that
I want
day.
you to swab for fecal matter on all your materials, because I think you would be super surprised.
Oh, I'm not surprised. I know how bad it is.
No, I know how bad it is.
Now,
My hand's probably
there's
covered
this
right
story I heard on the radio. They're talking about this family had a poop knife, because apparently a poop knife.
Okay.
That
Go
they
on.
had to hang on the wall in the bathroom, because in general, this family apparently had a very large history of having large poops, and they wouldn't flush because it was too big.
That's amazing.
You have a sphincter. You don't need a knife. What is wrong with you people?
You
No,
open
they
the
would
sphincter.
pinch it up, but it was so big it wouldn't go into
You-
the freaking toilet.
Yeah, you need to stitch it off sooner.
Maybe it comes out too fast.
Better
They don't realize
have
it.
See, I know whenever my colon is completely full, I do the opposite of what you're saying. I basically try
Well, yeah,
to...
you want to try to make it as big as possible, but
Exactly,
they're
I'm going
having
for
plumbing
records.
issues.
Yeah, they literally need to have a poop knife to cut the
You
poop
don't
so it'll go
need
in the
a
toilet.
poop knife. This is devolved. I'm going back to
I love how I've derailed this entire thing. It's fantastic.
Anyway,
So-
to go back to my problem, really is like me spending too much time in the bathroom, really sending
Yeah.
messages to you guys and funny just because I'm not bad.
But
I was doing so good.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Video games are bad for me. The worst part is that over time I've gotten worse, where I used to break up my nights with other things like reading or like watching a movie or going out and doing stuff. But as you're like, well, I need to pinch pennies for one reason or another.
Yeah.
This is the entertainment I've invested in. It's so easy to fall in this rabbit
Yeah.
hole. And this happened to me recently, where like I beat Spider-Man. I have all these other games I want to play, or that I bought thinking I was going to play them, and I'm like, oh, I just need to play something because I put money into it, and then I'll put my time into it. Be like, I'm not having fun. Like, I don't want to play this game. Why am I playing this game? And so finally, I've just sat down. I'm like, oh, that's right. I don't have to only play video games. I have 10 books I want to read that are on the shelf.
Yep.
I have
Yep.
Time with other people to come and spend and go do something.
just remind yourself what it's like to pick up a book.
Please do.
I can only imagine how many times I go in my room and I'm like, I need to read this one this month.
Yeah.
I need to read this one this
The
month.
one you borrowed from me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still planning on reading it.
One day.
It's just we had so
Yes.
much coming out
Actually.
at once. It was for God of War, legitimately.
It was.
That was about 6 months ago, yeah.
And it was really just to recap like the mythos
Mythology and
of
whatnot.
Norse mythology. Sorry, I was
Yeah,
like, it's not what I'm like. Not Viking. Stop thinking Viking.
Yeah, my probably biggest issue with technology is a very weird issue to have, and is that I don't enjoy technology a whole much. I always joke with Mark about like, if I could just walk away from tech, if it wasn't obviously my job or career or anything like that, then I 100% would just adore doing that for long periods of time. But I always find myself not enjoying tech because it's always like, oh, I could just goof off and play a video game all night. Nah, I could work on something. I should probably read something. Or I should probably research this thing. Or I should probably work on this. And it's just, I always just go down the rabbit hole of like, I can't just like that's why I don't watch TV shows and movies. It's not like, I'll watch sports, but it's always passive. Like, I'll have a sport up and it's like, cool, I'm going to watch this game. I want to research stock investing. How do 1031 accounts work? And then I'm just learning things. Just like always like basically passively working on random crap. And it's like, I just want to be on my computer and just have fun. And not be like, how do I make money? How do I figure out YouTube better? Or how do I read more books? Or how do I learn about investing or whatever? It's just like, I just want to like enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's why like, it took me 6 months to be God of War.
Yeah.
Just because I was like, oh, I want to beat this game. Nah, I need to do this thing. Nah, I can get ahead on work. I could do this.
So I used to, and I've been meaning to get back to it, is I used to schedule my week out. And it's not like a hard schedule that I have to keep, but it was my entertainment schedule. So
Yeah.
like Mondays I would play a video game. Tuesdays I would do a little bit of game development. Wednesdays was reading. Thursday was video game, and Friday and Saturday are open for the weekend. And that really helped me focus on just getting certain things done over time and not having that problem. Because that's the problem I'm having right now without my schedule. And I've purposely not built a schedule because it's wedding planning and all this other stuff going on. It's just really hard to keep something like that.
Absolutely.
But I want to go back to it because having that kind of focus allowed me to not get burnt out on video games and not feel like I have to be doing all these things because I put time. Like, I guarantee if I was on my PS4 less, I'd have spent less money on it because I'm not looking at the sales.
Yeah.
I do that all the time where I'm like, no, I don't want to play any of this. What's the sale here? Oh, that looks really cool.
Oh,
I'm going to
Last
buy
of Us, $7?
Darksiders 2 for $3.
Yeah.
played,
I did the same thing with Tomb Raider, and I still haven't played it.
Played an hour, and I'm like, that's a fun game. I'm good.
Yeah.
No, I that is something I do.
You didn't hear me earlier when you said it, did you?
I did.
I was like, doo-doo.
Is I make sure that I have a set list of things I want to get done during the week.
Yeah.
In general, so that way I don't feel constricted or confined or pressed for time. So I'm like, I've got 3 more days to do this.
I'm a procrastinator.
Yeah, me too. So I procrastinate until Friday, and then Friday's bam, 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 and then he wants to hang out, and I'm like, okay, then I leave. So I have full days where I don't do anything electronic almost.
Are we just gonna let that hand motion go?
What?
We're just gonna.
I know.
What?
I was, because I'm a mature adult.
I'm not.
Well, because I was doing this.
Yeah.
Right after you do. Now that we've got all our potty
It's not the only thing I
humor
do in the bathroom.
My it's just like stuff like that is just fascinating because it's so weird because I just do the dumbest stuff, and it's like it's so bothersome, and I just wish that it was like you said, you just go down a rabbit hole and it's completely unnecessary, and it's like it's never productive. I mean, it's
productive
always
in weird ways.
it's always productive,
Yeah.
but it's like with like YouTube stuff, like I did like tech stuff for a good while, and I probably have more than double the tech videos I released unreleased, like edited, scripted out. Like I'll just I have 3 books that I've started writing, and it's like one of them's like probably 2 chapters in, one of them's a chapter in. I have like prologues and character stuff, and it's like I'll just go down a rabbit hole. It's been like 2 days of like I should do this, and then I was like, nah, I should do this other thing. I need to do that now. And it's like I just want to just make a schedule and just stick to it, but it's so hard.
Oh,
It's very weird to I don't know, I guess delegate time to something and it not feel like work.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you're delegating time to something to enjoy it, it's like work because you're like, I need to enjoy this.
Yeah.
I want to enjoy this show.
Yeah.
I do this. I'm the same way with software development, though. But I mean, have you seen my project backlog and how many unfinished projects I have at this point? I have, I think, 15 websites that I've started for some various reason that I'm like, I'm gonna do this, and I got through 3 steps, and it's like, well,
I'm gonna do this other one.
I need to do this one. And, oh, this is a good idea, and I'm just gonna switch. And I have 15 projects that I could have finished.
That's me with game projects. I have 3 different engines on my computer, and I have I'm like, I just want to try this out. That was really cool. No, I gotta try this now.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
Oddly enough, today I needed to get a cable because I was cleaning up my desk setup. So we had to go to Guitar Hero, Guitar Center, whatever.
It's not Hero.
I don't know if it's Guitar World or
I can tell you that right now.
Center.
It
It's
is
definitely
good.
Center.
Oh yeah, Guitar World is also a game. But so we were at Guitar Center, and we were talking about MIDI keyboards because my roommate was fascinated. He's talking about he always wanted a bounce pad. And when I was in college, I had a keyboard and a bounce pad my freshman year. And that's probably the last time I have done something for undisclosed amount of time for just sheer enjoyment. And it's honestly because I just lost time. And it's like, I'm going to make a beat. Oh, it's 10 hours later. Oh. But other than that, now it's if I play a game, if I've been God of War, I'll be playing God of War for 2 hours, and then I'll be like, I got to do something. Well,
Yeah.
I just played a video game for 2 hours. What am I doing with my life?
I think part of that's the adult syndrome where you're like,
Yeah.
I need to be productive because I have things in my life I have to get done.
Yeah, and it's the dumbest stuff. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, I need to charge my laptop for work tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then you just clean your book bag and
Yep.
whatever.
I need to vacuum this floor
Yeah.
right now. Look at all that hair.
Exactly.
It's terrible.
I have that feeling about certain games. So if I play a game for an extended period of time during the week, I start feeling that way, and I can't play a game for more than half an hour, and I'm like, I got to do laundry.
Yeah.
And then I'll start playing again, and then I got to do vacuuming. And then I got to go make my bed. It's weird. My head just starts freaking out. You have things to do, be an adult.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's the worst.
See, this is what I liked about my flight simulator. I take off, I do a long flight, and I literally just get to cruise altitude and walk away from the computer. I walk away from the computer, I do stuff, I do laundry, fold clothes, and, I clean up around the apartment a little bit.
Dylan
okay,
tries
come
to
back
land
to
in
it.
the
All right,
Midwest.
I was saying, you come back, the co-pilots, where'd you go? We're going down.
we lost Engine 3!
That's amazing. So what I'm determining here is that our bad habits aren't about technology. It's about ourselves.
Yeah.
I believe that is
it
what
is.
the case is.
Well, yeah,
I mean, it is bad behavior. So.
It's bad behaviors.
Not
and it's
bad tech.
always easy to blame technology or companies, however you want to spin it.
Oh, no,
it's
my fault. No, 100%.
Well, I don't know. They do make things addictively. I mean, to be fair.
I had it set up for you. They're just interrupting.
You did.
Clearly.
Good setup.
Dylan, tell us your qualm with companies right now.
My qualm is that I feel like we are just in the most PC world ever. There's a player from, I believe he's from Tempo Storm.
Politically correct. I want to make sure everyone knows what you're talking about.
What did you say?
You said it's a good time because you said the most PC centric like personal computer.
He was meaning computer. Yeah. I was so confused. So there's a guy he is from Tempo Storm.
I missed the words, I guess, leading into that.
Yeah. Like I said, we're just in a PC world, not meaning gaming and computers. I mean like politically correct. There's a dude from Tempo Storm.
No. Just go.
Okay. He plays for Tempo Storm. His name is Mythical Tyrex Jefferson. He does speed runs and a whole bunch of other stuff.
It sounds like one of the names from that Key and Peele skit about college football name. Sorry.
It's very odd. But he gets banned. Yeah. The Brickashaw Ferguson. He gets banned because during a recent stream, he used a homophobic slur calling his friend F word, not the word for this.
Bundle of sticks.
Yes, the word for bundle of sticks. Or if you are from the UK, what a pack of cigarettes is called. He uses that word to call his friend that, and he got banned from Twitch from it, which has been happening a whole lot lately.
Yeah.
Especially with that word in particular. Because a lot of people in the gaming community use that as like a insult. It's like you're a noob or you're that word.
Yeah.
And Twitch has really started to throw down ban hammers on this. Like first time it's like 7-day ban, 30-day ban, then perma ban.
Oh wow.
I think this dude, they said they're giving him undisclosed ban, which most people think he's just gonna get 30 days. Which like for people like him, it's his job, it's his life. And for better or worse, I mean, me personally, I have an issue with it. I obviously think if you think the word is offensive. If the word does offend you, I have no problem with that, and I completely understand that word is capable of offending people. However, that word, to certain people, also can be humorous. For better or worse, I understand it's not Twitch's role to delegate that, but I think the mature filters and maybe this gamer is offensive or whatever, I feel like there should be filters in place for that because, like, no matter what, people are going to want to watch that, and people are going to think that's funny. Like, whether it's, like, potty mouth humor or whether it's, like, some gamer or whatever is like offensive to women and makes women jokes all the time. Like there's probably a pack of 15-year-old boys who thinks that dude is the funniest guy ever. So yeah, they probably think he's the funniest dude in the world, and like there's nothing negative about that. I mean, like sure, he's hopefully meaning this in a joking, humorous intention, and he's not sexist or anything like that. But I think that my belief has always been it's up to the user, it's up to the viewer, it's up to the consumer.
Yeah.
Like the company shouldn't thwart this. The company should totally label it and being like, that guy's offensive. Watch him if you want.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be like
explicit warning like you do with CDs.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's an odd time we live in because
it's an annoying one.
I don't disagree, but I also disagree. I understand I understand both sides. Like I do think that there's a normalization that is no longer okay.
I do want to quickly note, I might not have made this clear when I was explaining what he said. He said that to not a gamer. He said that to a friend in chat.
In the
chat.
He was not
while he's live.
He
was live and like it was like me and Mark playing together, and I'm like, Mark, you're
an
idiot.
He knew next to him, yada yada.
So it wasn't a rando.
Which is why it gets even weirder in this instance because he's not actually like there have been like, hey, he dropped an N-bomb in the middle of the chat. You're like, probably shouldn't. You kind of deserve that one for the band there. But normalization, regardless of whether we think it's funny or not, does create problems. And so how do you handle that is that you make it no longer normalized. You penalize in order to get rid of that normalization. You have to in some form or another. I understand that Twitch is trying to make it easier for more content creators to come in, and that they're not the only platform. YouTube has gone through similar issues, which is why they should broaden their tools. I do agree. A mature content filter should exist. I'm curious as to why we're not seeing any form of real competitor's a hard way to put it because Twitch is owned by Amazon. Like, they're a very big company. There's no real way for someone to come in right this second to take them over.
Yeah.
But not even like a small upstart. Not even like Vero popped up like earlier this year, and people are like, oh, it could take over Facebook. Like, nothing even similar to that is attempting to take over for YouTube or Twitch, where you can have these things. Because I think there's an argument to be made that there are content creators and consumers who would go in that direction.
See, for better or worse, well, I find it very interesting that
You're being a child right now.
I find it very interesting because like YouTube allows you to make the content and they allow you to publish the content. They just don't allow you to make money on the content.
Yeah.
Whereas Twitch is just straight up banning you.
Yeah,
for
they're not
saying
gonna
it.
let you in there at all.
They're just like, get out of here. And that's my biggest issue is like YouTube, like, and it's a great example of like, if I want to use a Kanye West song on this video, we could use a Kanye West song on this video for our intro.
Yeah.
We can't monetize it, and if we do, he gets the money, not us, because it's his IP or whatever. And like, I'm cool with that. By the same logic of, if I want to be offensive and say dumb things, and YouTube's like, hey, you can do that, you just can't make money, we're not gonna prevent you from uploading it. I mean, you at least get the option, you know?
Yeah.
And I understand Twitch is a platform where they can't stop people from donating to you because it's not through Twitch. They can't, stop these things. So, I mean, I guess that could be their point. My thing is just much more of like, whatever content, for better or worse, like if you want to make it. Let the consumers, the world will decide if it is. Just what we're talking about with tech. If the boutique is not selling, the boutique dies.
Yeah.
If the offensive people are not popular or funny and people don't like it, they go away. They don't make money. If the racist people are not funny and their jokes are seemingly malicious or whatever and people don't like it, they go away.
Well,
They don't stay.
Why don't they move to YouTube? YouTube has streaming capabilities.
They could do that. Well, I think that some people are starting to. YouTube streaming is seemingly gaining a good chunk of momentum now.
Yeah.
And they just switched to YouTube gaming is now part of YouTube. They combine the platforms.
Yeah, so it's no longer singular.
Yep. So between those two factors, YouTube is, I think, picking up some momentum. And I do think if stuff like this continues to happen, I think that Twitch, I don't want to say they're shooting themselves in the foot, but some of those creators are totally going to be like, hey, I'm cool with not making money on my VODs, but I can say what I want. I'm going to go do that over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just very odd. I'm all about being politically correct and like not offending people. Like if this podcast is censored, not just for monetization reasons, but so like that way a 10-year-old could watch this and be. I mean, you probably shouldn't. But if you wanted to,
Minimum age requirement 12 years old.
Yeah.
Why is this Japan?
No.
That was a callback to a really early
Yeah,
episode.
no kidding.
Hopefully you didn't get that 12-year-olds. But that it's just more of like accessibility. Like I mean, there's no, like, in my opinion, there's no need to, I guess, excessively filter yourself. Like if you are who you are, like if you're an offensive, like one of my favorite YouTubers used to be called the Offensive Gamer, and he was really offensive. That was his whole thing, and the way YouTube money and algorithm will not happen, it wound up like completely ending his channel. Now, if it would have been a passion project for him and just a hobby, he could totally still keep doing it.
Yeah.
He just can't do it for money.
Yeah.
And like he could set up a Patreon or whatever. But like, I mean, I'm not like super offensive or racist or anything, but like he did some funny stuff, and like it's like I would never do that.
Yeah.
But like it's funny to watch.
I can't walk outside after saying that.
Yeah.
there are certain things like dark humor, and
Yeah.
Humor is subjective. You may not find something funny, somebody else will. Like that's how that works, which is why it's so frustrating, because it does feel like there's a lot of blame being put on content creators to not be offensive but still be funny. It's a hard constriction to get it, and I understand that completely.
And I don't know why, but it's very odd to me because I watch the Joe Rogan podcast for like a really good amount of time now, and not trying to be like a hipster, like I watched him before it was cool type thing. Yeah,
It was so awesome.
I feel like in the past like 3 months, even before the Elon Musk thing,
Yeah.
I feel like in the past like quarter, maybe half a year, he's just exploded in popularity. It makes no sense to me. The Elon Musk being the pinnacle of
It makes a lot
hype.
of sense.
I mean, I've been seeing it pop up quite a bit. I mean, I don't know if it's advertisement or what.
yeah, I don't know if like YouTube is just favoriting him or what is happening.
A couple things happened. As I believe he just recently started doing clips rather than just putting out his full show.
Well, those are other people. That's the weird thing. The Jerry Clips, that's another channel.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
okay.
not even his
Well,
channel. That's the
Wow.
crazy part.
Oh, okay.
It's
Well, there you
some
go.
dude, I guess, who just watches this stuff.
Because his
like,
shows are like 3 hours long,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm not.
and he just did his new Netflix special. Either way, my point being from
Yeah.
that is he's talking about comedians and like how they work. And he's like, there are certain comedians who work in a way to where like you're offensive, you're funny, you're dramatic, you're stark. Like you say stuff people would never imagine hearing, and you get that shock humor value, and that's totally a whole livelihood of comedians. And then there's other comedians who like can do their whole skits without cussing, without yelling, without any punch. They can be monotone, and they just can make you die with laughter.
But it's a different type of
And
comedy.
he's like there's different styles. Like he's like, I do this and I prefer this. you do what you want to do, and you do what you want to do, and we might all be different, and like that's fine. But like hearing him say that, and like comparing to YouTube is like YouTube and Twitch, they're basically being like, you're okay, you're not, and it's like to me that's where it's like. That's your humor. Your humor is.
But you're choosing the platform though. Like that's the only problem I have.
There's
like,
no safe platform.
My thing is what
YouTube is.
Yeah,
YouTube
is,
will allow.
can't
not for
money.
monetization.
Yeah.
My thing is what you're saying though is there's no competitor. There's no like.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to be an offensive comedian, say you can't do Charlotte Convention Center, you've got to do the Blumenthal Arts Center, right?
I don't think it's a fair comparison though, because we're in a different time where those platforms are not physical locations that cost tons of money. It is entirely on you to figure out how to find your space. Like, because you don't have to use any of these platforms. You could literally just have a hosting site on your own website and have your videos there, and then put yourself out that way. Like, and that's very low maintenance on your end if you so choose.
Yeah,
you're getting the marketing if you're good in these platforms, and they're available.
And I think that because it's interesting, like for example, like Rooster Teeth, which is like I think their company is amazing. Like just the way they've set everything up, and I mean pretty much everything about their company is awesome. But like if they wanted to make offensive content, they totally can. It's on their website. They can do whatever they want. Exactly. Yep. And it's like most smaller people don't get that option, which is why like seeing like something like this, like maybe this dude has a big following on Twitch. If he goes to YouTube, what's the conversion? How many fans come? Like like it sucks that like
maybe
you 10%. Gave this dude a platform and then you changed on him. Yeah. This F word that we're referring to, like that is within the last like 2 or 3 months, this has become an issue. Yeah. And it's like if it would have been from the start, now granted I know companies evolve and you change and like all that happens.
Standards are changing so fast for everyone. It's a real problem in general.
Exactly, and it sucks though because like you have these people who like that dude is a person who probably like his life and his income revolves around him being a creator, and you just took that away because you changed a policy that doesn't align with him. That sucks. I mean, it does.
It does. I'm not gonna say it doesn't suck because that does, but.
My whole point is in this country, we're supposed to be able to say whatever we want.
You're using their platform. The freedom of speech does not work for this.
I get that, but what I'm saying is, like, as a country, before I was rudely interrupted by this liberal fanatic on my left.
Crazy.
The long-haired, ponytailed liberal.
Hippie.
The whole purpose of us wanting freedom of speech and everything is pinnacle. Everyone wants to be able to say their share.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do.
No.
We're doing it right now.
People believe they want that, but the second that somebody else says what they want to say, they get offended. That's the issue we have right now.
Again, it's the offensive part. I'm like, since when did we become so sensitive?
What was that when you were in kindergarten? Everyone on sticks and stones.
No.
Yeah, I mean, we used to be so mentally tough as a country, and now all of a sudden it's like this simple insult is just horror. Like, oh my god, I can't stand this.
The idea that we were mentally tough as a country is laughable.
No, it's
not. We were sitting here scared of communists infiltrating. Like everyone's a commie.
No, all the old people were really scared of communists. Everybody else didn't really understand what the hell was going on, and they just got scared because everybody else was scared.
Exactly, we weren't mentally strong.
That's what hysteria is. That's a human condition.
We also still had issues back then that were very similar to this. The difference is we have platforms to talk about them.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to talk about like that one thing, okay, fine. But what I'm saying is, like, in general, like if you look at our grandfathers or they were very mentally tough. Like they were not the same as like.
Well, I disagree.
I think our upcoming grandfather generation.
See, I don't think that the percentages necessarily changed. I think the percentages, in my opinion, are the same as they were 100 years ago or whatever the case may be. I think the difference is like what Brent's talking about with the platform. Whether you're on the dramatic left or on the dramatic right, both of those ends get more attention than ever, and it's because they're dramatic, and it's the opposite end of the spectrum. So like, there have been the same amount of sensitive people now as there were 100 years ago. The difference thing is the dramatically sensitive people get dramatic more attention. So it's very easy to be like, it's very easy for a news station to cover some lady who like. Whatever, like killed herself or somebody offended her, and like she went to the craziest extreme because she was so offended. Like that crazy extreme now is like almost like a battle cry because it's so extreme. And then you have the exact opposite end of that where it's like the far right end of the spectrum gets their battle cries from their crazy extreme things, and it's those things are much more popular, which makes the extremes much more prevalent all the time, and that makes companies like the Google thing where they had to make the decision on the guy a couple years ago who basically was like the equal pay thing with women.
Oh,
like the
yeah.
It was like it's one of those things where like that should have never happened, but you basically put Google on like the finest point, and it's like pick left or right.
Yeah.
What do you want?
Well, I mean, it's nothing new.
No.
In the early '90s, there was the freaking or I guess early 2000s hot coffee, San Andreas. Like the moms were freaking out. I was like, my kid can play this sex game. I was like, well, I mean,
They
it is
cannot
what
play
is.
it.
You
It's a
should-
mature
it's a
video
mature
game.
You probably should have bought it for
It
him.
says
anyways.
18
It's
plus
not
on
like
it.
you can't literally do everything else to that person but have sex with them at
What's
that point.
amazing
You
Yeah,
could
to,
also
like-
shoot them and grenade them.
I think the hysterics have gotten louder. That's
Yeah.
the problem.
Well, I just we're so worried about the minority, the direct minority, that
Not-
it's starting to
well,
become that everyone else is like
I think that it's
neglecting themselves for it.
I think that it's like think about voter turnout. Like if we push 60% of the country, that's really impressive for us because
we pushed 35. That's impressive. What are you talking about?
yeah. So it's like people don't go out. So like for example, like if you have a whole bunch of people who really care about us, whatever the issue is, let's say it's like being like PC and not using derogatory slurs, like homophobic slurs. That's like the thing we hate, right? And if there's 10 out of the population, say 10 to 15% of it strongly agree that, hey, we should get rid of all of these from speech, like screw the First Amendment, like these offensive homophobic slurs have got to go, right? Those 15% are going to be really loud about it. And now, granted, maybe the other 85% of the country doesn't really care, but if that 15% votes and the 30% of the vote, they only need 1%.
Yeah,
They got it.
I don't think it's we people are more concerned about it. I think companies are more concerned about it because of the fact that they are put, like you just put Google on a pedestal, like they're put on the finest needle so easily.
And you're going to offend one or the two sides. Like the Google thing was like, do you want to offend all the people who think we should have equal workplace? And it's not that Google obviously agrees with your side. It was just more of like, you don't believe in equal rights or you do.
Yeah.
And it's like,
it's
come
not
on,
that
man.
way, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the EA. They just took out Cristiano Ronaldo out of their advertisements and their trailers and everything else because this woman came up and said that he sexually assaulted her
15 years ago.
15 years ago. And I'm like,
So,
well, again,
Not that I
it's one of those
disbelieve
things. It's
people
like,
innately,
is that an over extreme or is that a reasonable action?
I think the difference here is today they advertise it, whereas 10 years ago they just would have done it and not said anything.
Yeah.
That's the major difference. Because I don't think
Are they
their
advertising it or
action-
are people pointing it out?
They're advertising. They announced that
They
they were
made
making
like
it,
a statement that
like,
they were rescinding
that.
it from
That's what I
marketing.
think the major difference is. That's the shift, is because companies before were concerned about these things. They just changed stuff around at whatever time was convenient for them. However, they can make it happen. Like they don't want to offend consumers in general. However, because their delivery systems are so instantaneous today, they have to be prepared. At least they feel like they have to be prepared for backlash. I honestly think the best thing most companies do that survive these kinds of things is when they just do nothing at all.
Take Marvel for what's his name? The director? Guardians of the Galaxy.
James Gunn?
Yeah, James Gunn. They got rid of Gunn, and then that was it. They were like, cool. Yeah.
Even his people rallied behind him, and they're like,
Okay.
we're going to be quiet.
Yeah.
That's it. Radio silence.
No comment.
Welcome to Disney.
That's how it works. And nobody's talking about it now. Like, I mean,
Nope. It'll blow over.
except for us.
Yeah.
But like, people are going to be talking about EA now for the next 6 months to a year, on top of everything else that's going on in this country right now. Like, there are some very prevalent issues that people get very passionate about, and they get loud. But I don't necessarily think that we have really.
This is like, I mean, we really left the technical side
no,
of this argument.
And I mean, I think that it's still very applicable though, because like the PC aspect is like what we're talking about with the media. Like, my thing is, it's just, for lack of a better term, like even if it's 30 to 40% of the vote, like people actually vote or whatever, and if that is the people who have the loudest voices, unfortunately in today's climate, seem to be the people who push towards extremes. Yeah. Because that just gets picked up. That just keeps getting circulated. So it's like, hey, these words offend people. This is the worst thing someone's ever said. Is this offensive? And you're like, yeah, that's offensive. And you're like, cool, all these words you can't say. And you're like, no, that one example was really bad. You made this easy for you.
Yeah.
I've been mulling over your comedians and places that you can as a venue. And I think the big reason why that won't work is that people willingly bought for those comedians. Like they spent that money. The platform here is spending the money, and you get to consume it for free via the advertisement. And therefore, the threshold is so much easier to enter. That's why they're more scared about it. Because people who like Bill Cosby don't necessarily like Eddie Murphy, and vice versa.
Right.
Like they specifically.
That's an interesting choice.
Well, that's because Eddie Murphy picks on Bill Cosby in that,
okay.
and one of his, but because of his crassness, and so there are tons of people who prefer one style over the other. Those venues aren't necessarily involved in how they handle things, so I see where that could work here.
Yeah.
But the problem being the barrier to entry, like the
Right.
price of an Eddie Murphy concert ticket was exorbitantly high, so no kid was going without their parents.
Yep.
So I think that's the issue, really the issue around here. And I mean, how do you get around that? Because there's no way YouTube's gonna be like, by the way, we're gonna have a mature section. It costs $10 a month.
It would be more like you have to watch an advertisement before going into the show, and that advertiser has to be willing to trust that the show you're going into represents nothing that they don't belong.
Well,
want
that's
to
my
be
thing about, like,
insinuating.
for example, like the YouTube adpocalypse. The issue that I have with that is like I feel certain there are companies who are cool being on non-PC content. Like there are because it's like for example, like if you want to be an ad on a Call of Duty thing, like if Beretta, which is a gun company, wants to be an ad on a Call of Duty video, and a Call of Duty video is flagged as like mature or whatever, I'm confident Beretta's like, that's who we want. That's our target.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know that exists, so it's like it's very like YouTube not allowing it to monetize. Like it's a different. I see their point of they were pushed to the extreme and had to cut it off, and then now they'll probably get back to there at some point.
My thing is, why are you going to put it up there if it's so offensive, but you can't monetize off of it? That doesn't
Because
make that to me is just
they don't want to take people's voice away, which I respect the crap out of. They don't want to take
I
people's
do
voice away.
too, but the monetization part is just so it's like almost petty at that point. You're still putting
my
it
thing
out
is,
there.
like-
You're still the platform.
It's incentivization.
Yeah.
They
My
want to
thing is-
incentivize people who create content that bring more people there, and they're trying to incentivize the lowest barrier to entry so they don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Are they still putting advertisements on your video?
Yeah,
And they're still making money off of it?
Of course
So
they are.
they're the ones
They own
making the
the
money
platform.
off of the stuff that they don't believe that should be on there in the
Well, no,
first
so
or
it
shouldn't
depends.
be monetized
If the
from.
content's deemed as mature, then if you're not partnered, there shouldn't be any ads on it. There could be. It shouldn't be, but there could be because they're advertisers like Charmin doesn't want to be tied to like mature content. So like Charmin maybe has a clause with them that says no matter what, if it's
Don't
mature
put it
flag,
Yeah.
don't put toilet paper on there
Yeah.
or whatever the case may be. My issue with Twitch is like, and it could be like this to an extent with YouTube of like I mean, I think that people should just be able to say and do what they want. And if they're really offensive and they're really derogatory and people don't like it and they're really hateful or whatever, people aren't going to go there. It shouldn't happen. And maybe it may be a funny thing or whatever.
No, I was just thinking that the competitor's name could be called Bitch.
But it's one of those things where, like, when are we going to get, and if this is what it takes for this to be acceptable, is why don't we just start looking towards an ESRB system for YouTube / Twitch?
Yeah.
Totally down.
Like, I like the European model, like the PEGI system,
Yeah.
because it's specific ages. Like here, it's like what is T for teen is. I mean, I guess I get that, but then it's
better
M is 17 or whatever.
Google
It
create.
doesn't even match up with the rated R films. Which are
Exactly,
18.
exactly.
Yeah.
Google could
PEGI
even-
16. Guess what? You gotta be 16.
But I mean, Google could even create their own system for this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
They have an automated system that analyzes how, like, what you say.
It
to
already
know-
deems you as mature.
Right.
It already does it.
But the thing is that you could actually give it a scale to say, okay, you're saying certain words that are in an extremely offensive category versus a minorly offensive category versus not at all, like kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
R for racist.
but still, like, they could have an automated system that scans your audio pattern from the video and say,
Yeah.
you're doing this, or it has, these images that you're displaying or something like that, like the Klan flags in the background or something like that. That's probably going to offend a lot of people.
You probably shouldn't be here, but whatever.
But
You
that's
probably are a racist.
But that's the thing. You could even leave it up to the advertisers to say, well, this is okay, that's not, this is okay,
Yeah.
that's
And it would
not.
also be
So-
something where, like, you're talking about, like, hey, there's a Klan thing in the background. It's like, oh, no, this is just this crazy racist dude, or, oh, this is a History Channel,
Yeah.
like, teaching you something.
Big distinction.
And YouTube could be
Right.
like, oh, that's History Channel. That's whatever.
Right. Well,
That's educational.
But you'd have
We're
to
still
go-
going to flag it as mature educational,
But
but
you'd have to go through a dispute process, just the same. And you, again, if you monetize, you go through a dispute process, you get your funds back afterwards. Whatever, no big deal. It's not even really a slap on the wrist. Even actually, it's more like
an inconvenience of anything
an
else.
inconvenience. But like, you tell them why you did it, or they even review the video and say, "Oh, this is historical.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, no
yeah,
big deal."
my thing about the Twitch thing is, like, you obviously know that he said that word. Now you just make if these pool of words are detected, then you tag them as offensive.
So what's the
Right.
delay on a Twitch stream? Is it instantaneous?
You can set the delay to whatever you want.
Okay.
But they then filter everything before it goes to VOD, so that
Yeah.
it used to be
yeah.
where people had like music and stuff playing. So you can't save any of your Twitch streams if you have music that's copyrighted played in the background. It just mutes them. So I assume that the check is then.
Yeah. I do think that what's going to push this is going to be people talking about it, which we are here, and a market demand. Like if he were to say, you know what, Twitch banned me for this, if this was like the worst thing I've ever said on the stream, and yet they've done me in, I'm done, I'm leaving, and enough creators leave, they're going to have to readjust. It's going to hurt the creators in the meantime. Unfortunately, that's how capitalism works. You're taking that risk in the hopes that you're getting a better gain.
Yeah.
You know, Google, you're already stepping up the game, starting to step into new markets. Maybe you should just try to change this market a little bit. You know, you're the leader in it.
It's still hypocritical in that because they're
bit.
going to change because they're not making money, so they're going to make concessions where they wouldn't have to begin with.
Well, no, I think that that was the biggest issue with the adpocalypse is Google didn't have an efficient way to do it in the beginning, and it was Verizon was like, oh, we're on ISIS videos. That's bad. And then they were like, we don't want to be on any of your stuff if you can't control it.
Toyota truck on ISIS videos
because they were driving in the ISIS video.
But like that stuff, like in the beginning, I understand. Google was like, hey, if you're super safe, like kid content or whatever, we're going to start bringing the money back.
Yeah.
Hey, now we're going to start doing it back. For gamers who are mature, you're just going to get less. And it may be a thing where they get the other people. My issue is just much more with this specific example and why I hope that if there is, like, you know, a rally cry or whatever, it is for this specific example, is because, like, if it is someone like there's an old League player called Tyler One, he was very derogatory and toxic to other people, to people in the game, to random innocent people.
And that's a problem.
That's a problem. This is a dude and his friend just crap talking each other.
Yeah.
Like, for better or worse, like, that's obviously how they talk to each other, and that's not saying that they're bad people or whatever. Like, they just talk crap.
Yeah.
It's whatever. So it's like, and I'm certain if you're a viewer, you probably, unless this is your first time watching, you probably have a good idea of his character, and I'm going to guess he's probably just talks crap sometimes.
And guess what? If you don't like it, you can leave.
Exactly.
Like, you can go find another
You just
stream.
hit this. You hit back.
Yeah. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
But the problem is that you take it entirely. A lot of people take it entirely too personal. Oh, this person said this thing. It affects me. No, it doesn't. Go somewhere.
Back.
I'm sorry. For those people that are like, oh, this offends me to a point where I'm going to make a big deal out of it, I'm like, just go away.
But you're trying to, like, personalize
You're giving
it
them the
between you and this
attention they
person.
want, you idiot.
The argument I've heard is that, again, the normalization. You continue to utilize the word in a specific manner. It's just like somebody was like, man, that was a total accident. I didn't mean to drop that N-word. I'm like, no, you use the N-word a lot because that's not just something that you absentmindedly drop. You obviously have said it before.
There's a really cool article about what you're talking about normalization that I read probably about a year ago now. And it was talking about the derogatory terms in which we use to call mentally handicapped people.
Yeah.
And it was basically like, since I think it was like the 1800s, every word we've used to describe mentally handicapped has become either an insult or derogatory. And it's something like, for example, lame just means slow. Mm-hmm. But like now it's like everyone like, oh, that's lame.
Yeah.
And it's like, that was meant to be like a politically correct word. And then people like were like, oh, he's lame. And it's like, come on, man.
What was the thing I saw the other day? Who's the guy who does like Change My Mind series?
Oh,
Adam Crowder.
Yeah.
Stupid meme.
Well, no. What is it? Apparently, the word hermaphrodite is offensive now, but it's a medical term.
I'm sorry. So when I was in high school, I did a Greek mythology project on a made-up god called Hermaphrodite.
You know that hermaphrodite comes from Hermes' children.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or child that was male and female.
Why would you?
Hermaphrodite.
You're a messed up individual sometimes.
See, at that point, back when you did that, it wouldn't have been offensive.
It wasn't.
If you did it
I
now,
got a really good
it's
grade on
offensive.
that, honestly.
They're probably like, he's close enough.
That's one of the few times I didn't get in trouble for something stupid.
Yeah, right.
I can't take any of the Crowder video seriously. That's my problem.
No, but
No.
still, like the idea is that they're turning things that are actual official terms that things that are like the way that language I guess works is an offensive or offense works now is that
it's not offense. It's how language works. Because just like he was saying, we took medical terms and made it into an insult.
And that was the whole thing of like we recreate. That was part of the thing about this article I was reading was we essentially kept recreating new words for mentally disabled people
because we kept doing that.
Because it was like, hey, in the early 1900s, they were like, hey, we're going to use this word retarded because that means they're like slower than average. And the people are like, no, he's retarded. And it's like, God,
Now we gotta use
stop.
another one.
We gotta
Yeah.
make a new word.
And now they're stupid. Oh,
Yeah.
you're stupid.
Yeah.
No.
It is interesting to watch language progress because it doesn't just go that way, but it happens often when you're like, oh, this word. No, that's right. That's not what it is anymore. Cracker's a great example of what cracker actually stands for, which is a whip cracker.
Yeah.
So when people throw it as an insult, you're like, that's really
That's
interesting.
actually
I'll be honest, I didn't know that.
Etymology of the word is very scary for
Another one
for
that's
some
really
people.
crazy to me. Vox does a weird series on this occasionally, and they just did one on the word okay.
Mm-hmm.
So does anyone know what the word
No.
okay is? The OKAY word comes from the initial OK,
Yep.
which originally was people in Boston who were like uppity people who knew how to read, made slang words, and the word was all correct, like ALL correct, and they would say it funny, so they'd say OLLK erect or whatever, and then it just became shorthand. They would say okay, and then people using the telegraph used all correct to sign off, and then OK became the sign off moniker of telegraph.
That's amazing.
So then OK became really popular. Then they're like, oh, well, OKAY is how we would actually spell it, and then that became a word. And you're just like, how did all correct become okay? What?
I love language.
I didn't know
One podcast I listen to every day. It takes 3 minutes of my day. Is the Webster Dictionary podcast, which I didn't realize they had one until 2 months
That
ago.
sounds like the dictionary.
It is the dictionary, but it is super
3
cool.
minutes?
It's 3 minutes. 3 minutes a day.
I feel like I could watch all the episodes in like 2 days.
But it's really cool because they bring out a word that you might have heard, you may not have. They talk about the etymology, a little bit of the origin. It's really cool.
Anthropomorphic.
What?
It's a good word.
Yeah. Anthropomorphic.
So I realized that we still have one more topic to go, and we're just stalling here. So, fighting the power is what it seems like some of these people want to do. They can, make their own platform, whatnot.
Yeah.
I do feel for the Twitch streamer, and I understand your
Yep.
point of view, which I think is one of the best discourses you can have here in this country, because it seems like nobody can have that anymore. But that's
What, understanding?
yeah.
Or their own point of view.
Besides the point, John, talk to us about one of the best revolutionists of the modern art age.
I can't tell about him sometimes, but I do love the man because he does things that just makes me feel good inside. Just because I know it just made a bunch of rich people really mad. Banksy decides to basically set up a sale of one of his pieces of artwork, frames it and everything.
His most iconic pieces of art.
Yeah.
If you do not know Banksy, all you have to look up is the little girl, white dress, red balloon.
Yep. And you'll see it. It's actually
Not a Stephen King poster.
Correct.
Yeah. And so after it was sold for $1.4 million on auction in London, as soon as the gavel, like legitimately someone was in the room, as soon as the gavel hit, a shredder started bringing down the piece out of the frame and was shredding it as it was coming down.
It's amazing.
So the person who just bought that piece just bought a shredded piece of Banksy art.
I wonder if they were able to
I have-
renegotiate.
I have no idea
Plot.
because as far as I'm concerned, after that gavel was struck down, you were responsible for that piece of art. You bought it.
Plot twist, it's now worth $40 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So he had actually put it up on Instagram of him building the shredder into the frame and everything else, and someone reported seeing someone with a weird-looking switch. And I'm like, wait, you didn't think bomb? But okay. To me, it was a very outspoken piece of art in itself. I mean, yeah, you're right. It is still probably worth something.
It's now worth probably more because
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
I mean, again, I can't tell if he does things for that prestige to make his art worth more so he can sell it sometimes, but I don't believe that to be Banksy. Other people will point that out and try to push that, saying, oh, no, he's really about the money, da-da-da-da-da. But if you look at his message, it's about fighting greed. It's about fighting oppression. It's about not letting the man step on you or make you feel small or force you to do things you don't want to do. And, and with everything that happened with Tall Tale Games, everything that happened with this art that someone else had created, could you imagine a world where they could just like go, boop, oh, did you screw us? I'm sorry, your game, everything that you did is now corrupted in some fashion, like the shredder in the Banksy piece of art. Would you feel like that would be appropriate?
I mean, just imagine if like a game like The Last of Us, they were able to disable all of them right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, you played it, you didn't.
Yeah.
That's it.
I would run home and unplug my PS3 from the internet as fast as I could.
Because that's going to be legitimately, that's going to be a game. You're going to buy this console for that game.
It'll be just like Flappy Bird.
There's an excellent...
Yeah.
When they're selling iPhones.
Or
with it on there.
PT.
I did that. I sold my iPad. I paid money.
I bet
mean,
you did.
Do you think it would be like...
And then it re-released?
almost... Do you think that it would be ill-conceived or like not even bothering with the ethics, but almost a self-destruct, so if anything happened to the developers, they could pull back, or to the creators that they could pull back and do something like that?
Quick side note. There's an excellent documentary on Banksy that's not really about Banksy, but involves him on... it was on Netflix. It's not there anymore. No? It's called Exit Through the Gift Shop. So if you have any interest in Banksy art, it's a wonderful documentary.
Speaking of which, he also did something where I think it was on that documentary where he was actually like had someone sell his real art, like 4 pieces of his real art on the street. I think it was New York.
I think so, yeah.
And so people are actually thinking they were buying like, a $50 piece of like fake Banksy art. And they actually, one person bought 2 of them, by the way.
And went home.
And bought 2 pieces of Banksy art for like $50 a piece.
That's dope.
Wow.
It's a good time.
Yeah, like the guy is just, he does things.
It is crazy stuff.
Just blow my mind.
I think relating it back to your question with video games and whatnot, like I don't think we'll see anything like this really in the gaming sphere. I think it's just gonna be so interesting because like art is so creative and it's so like there are very few artists out there like Banksy, but there are some artists who just do crazy weird stuff. Like I remember it was like I was reading something about one of the modern art museums in New York. A guy was like setting up the exhibit and then just to be like somewhat of a smart aleck decided to put his glasses down on a pedestal. And then it was like the number one thing in the display. Like everyone was going crazy about it. And he just did it to be dumb.
Yeah.
And it's like art is so anything. It could legit be a guy selling used underwear, or it could be like I think it's a 7-year-old Pakistani kid who splats on stuff. Yeah. He sells for like $100,000. And it's like there's no, in my opinion, there's no logic. There probably is logic, but like it's seeming like endless creativity and anything can happen. Whereas in gaming, it's very linear. Like people buy it for a reason. People create it for a reason, and it seemed to me like, I guess the spectrum of creativity is like within the game, and it's like, to me, like gaming is like I'm gonna paint a painting, and I've got a canvas, and that's my option. Whereas I feel like this guy, like he could do all kinds of crazy stuff. Like, I mean, we could hypothesize. Like, if Brent were to come up with the coolest game idea ever, or if Naughty Dogs were ever to do it, like say like Naughty Dog's Last of Us 2, they're like, we're gonna sell 10,000 copies. People would lose their freaking mind, and it could be a PR stunt like that to where like
See, I don't. Well, one, I think this actually ties into a topic we've talked about a couple months ago, where you want that one thing that's like super coveted in a game, exclusive in a game, right? I do think you can get something like that happening. Like how you're talking about the physical game being limited, I don't think that would happen, or even a physical, like the data of it being destructed. But I can imagine a developer coming out and being like, hey, here's this prehistoric planet. It's got creatures on it. You have magic. You all come in. Persistent world. Everyone's on it. It's the only one you get. You, the community, get to decide what happens with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was also thinking about like the Ready Player One style of like, there's one key.
Yeah.
There's one Link Master Sword.
Yeah.
Good luck. Only one person can have it.
Or even Easter eggs that are if you have a game that's tied online, that is like only a certain number of people can find that. And when they do, it causes something in the game world to happen, whether it's destroying it or keeping it around. I think there's definitely space there for it to happen. It won't happen in something like you said, like it's not going to happen in Uncharted. It's not going to happen in something that is a commercial viable product.
Like there's so many things like the Wu-Tang Clan CD. There was like they made
the
one
album,
yeah, exactly.
And it's like
yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like I feel like in art and like that's music, so that's a different type of art. But I feel like there's so many unique things there. But I feel like in gaming, you're very limited to what creative things you could do in that similar sense, and it be successful or logical.
I think you're only limited because of how young the medium is.
Yeah.
I would argue that like paintings and music and all that, we've had that for centuries, like thousands of years, and I think that. You give it enough time, obviously, we'll come up with something. But I think that technology is possible now, depending on how creative you are and what you're looking to gain. Well, like Banksy gets away with this because he's not looking for the money. So the money isn't a factor for him. He also benefits from being one of maybe a couple people crew to get this stuff done.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing about gaming is that it does require typically, at least a couple of individuals, if not more, to get something off the ground.
And I'm very curious that we haven't seen anything that's like, I don't want to say there's like a 2-stage process to what he was doing with that piece of art, but I mean it kind of is. It's like a setup and a payoff, right?
Performance
Like,
art, basically.
Yeah. And there was a thing that's super fascinating when I was a kid. It was the $1 Million homepage. I don't know if you guys remember this. Or
$1 million what?
$1 Million homepage. This kid wanted to pay for college, and he decided to sell a pixel for $1. And anybody who wanted to do it could spend $1. And there was 1 million pixels on the page. It was called the $1 Million Pixel homepage. He basically was going to pay for his whole college and obviously more. And it was weird because this was probably 2000 maybe 2001. And it's companies like eBay bought their name on there, and it was like a weird creative thing that just blew up. And it was like everybody for $1 you could buy a pixel. So eBay bought enough pixels to put their logo, and then a couple other big companies. It's funny because you see a whole bunch of dead companies that are all like browser companies or like domain, like sketch domain companies. You see their banners and stuff, and then some people put art on there and all kinds of stuff. And now he just permanently leaves it up, and it's just called the $1 Million homepage, and it's amazing. And it was like one of those things where it's like, people just like, oh, this kid just wants to be able to pay for his college, yada, yada. This is cool. Long cons. And now in hindsight, 15 years later, we're all like, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That was like crazy cool.
Yeah.
Whereas in gaming, I think we might see that with user data, where it's like something like Until Dawn, like, hey, we want people to be able to like save this person or whatever. Like, I don't know. You could use user data in some crazy ways or data mine it and figure out some cool stuff. It's a weird thing to look at.
Yeah, it is. Holy
cow.
And there's all kinds of like different companies, and
There's
everyone's
a lot
in
on
there.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and it was $1 a pixel, man, and a kid made $1 million.
That's crazy.
That's awesome.
It's just
Interesting
I
times.
love the idea of having something very finite involving into this medium, because I would love to own a piece of real Banksy art, but I mean obviously that's a little out of my price range.
Yep. I think that especially in the space that we're in, it's so weird because like my uncle's a huge comic book nerd, and like he's obviously rubbed off on me a good bit from my childhood. And like I remember when I was a kid, like he would take me to comic book conventions and stuff like the one here, Con Shaw and stuff. And it was like when he was like a cheap college kid or whatever, he'd just buy posters like we have on the wall here. And then now that he's like got some money, he only buys actual prints. He doesn't buy reprints. And it's like there are some artists where it's like he'd be like, yeah, 5 years ago I could buy their actual prints for like $500. Now they're like $10,000. And then he used to always, and not because any monetary value or because he wanted it for an investment, he just wanted it because he loves comics. He wanted to get the first appearance of all his favorite people.
Oh, cool.
And he wanted their actual panels. So like there would be like 100 of them or whatever.
Yeah.
So he wanted a panel from all their first appearances, and he wanted to do it for all his favorite. He's a huge X-Men nerd. So he wanted all the X-Men's first appearance comics. And he just over time, he's like, I'm going to buy this year and this year. And he was like, and every year got worse. He's like, he was like, cool, I can buy this like legit hand-drawn print. It'd be like $10 at a comic book convention. And then the next year was like 100. And it's like 500. And now it's like, I think he just got the Iron Fist one. And I want to say to pay like $2 or $3 grand for Iron Fist first edition or whatever. And you're like, wow. Jesus. He was like, yeah, like 5 years ago, this would have been like $20.
Oh, man.
That reminds me, I should buy Greg Kupalo Batman prints now.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like, I definitely feel like we're in a place now where it's like, if you like something and you want it, like, not just to, like, obviously I'm huge on boosting the economy, but not just for that, like, if you like something and you want it and it's affordable now, like, spend your money. Yeah. Because, like, it may not be attainable or affordable again. It may be, and maybe it doesn't pop off, like, whatever. Like the new, whatever it is, Dark Mech Joker, Harley Quinn.
Oh, yeah, those are cool.
Like, those may be cool now, and in 5 years, they may be from $100 to $10,000.
Well,
yeah.
Like a Tesla surfboard.
Yeah. Be careful because, I mean, some companies will take advantage of it. But, I mean, for the past 5 years now, since the initial release of The Last of Us, Naughty Dog has always done an Outbreak Day special where the day of, like, the year, it's sometime this past September, every September they have a week in which they're like, hey, we got, these cool products. They're only available right now. And every year I've passed it up. This year was one of those years where I was like, no, I want the vinyl set of the album, and I'm going to get this cool poster because the posters go in like hours. Yep. And then that's the only place you can get them. You can never get them again.
I remember I never really cared about any of that stuff. And when I went to PSX, I got like a limited edition Joel and Ellie pin set from like some artist or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't remember who the artist is, terribly enough. But I got the pin set or whatever, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And then my buddy Brandon was like, yeah, this is like, all this stuff's super collectible. Like, you're never going to be able to get this again. And I was like, man, I think it's kind of cool. I'll get it or whatever, right? And then I got 2 sets of cards or whatever to resell. And so I'm looking at, like, what's reselling from PSX because I'm, like, on my laptop there just looking. And then I see this pin online, and I'm like, this was a $20 pin. It is $300. What? I kind of want to keep it now.
Man, I mean, there's something about exclusivity that really brings it home.
Yeah, and I think that games, and I think it's such a finite line because, like, Borderlands 1, you had the pearlescence, which were really hard to get. I mean, obviously, like, it was complete RNG. It wasn't like they only made 10 of them or whatever. But, like, that was something that everyone talked about. It was, like, a big deal. And then Borderlands 2, like, you could get like, Destiny as well. Destiny 1, exotics are hard. Destiny 2, exotics are easy to get. And it's like, people want that. People want to be a unique snowflake.
Yeah.
For better or worse, it's so terrible because if you get something cool and you're the only one at the table who gets something cool, you're so happy, and us 3 are so tilted. And I feel like game developers are like, we can't let everybody be mad. And it's like, yeah, but we would all be just as happy as Brent. It's not that we're like, we're obviously upset that we don't have it.
Yeah.
But, like, we get it. It's fine. Like, the majority of people are cool with it. We're
I don't know.
jealous.
There's some people that were straight up, like, revolt
That's why we
over
don't play
certain
with them
things.
anymore.
Yeah.
That's why they don't play the game. Get out of here.
Yeah. Hey, man, that's always been my thing.
I mean, I think with this type of performance art or this type of limited art where you are like having to experience it there or you only get the YouTube video of it, I think it's completely attainable in video games in multiple ways. One, the gaming industry right now is terrible at maintenance for old games. So like there are literally games that are on on hard drives right now. They're the only copy of them.
We just talked about this earlier, the Club Penguin sign-off, right?
Yeah.
That was like one of the largest sign-in days they ever had.
Yeah.
Was the last day. They flipped over I don't know if that was always in the game or they added it late. I really wish they would say. They might have afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it was like basically if you got so many people on the platform would flip. And it never happened, but it happened the last day because they had so many people.
They had everyone sign in.
It was seemingly that it was always like that, but I kind of think they just, fudged up the numbers a little bit.
Yeah.
I do.
Well, you had PT, too.
Yeah, PT.
That was one of those
PT
things
was
in
another crazy one,
controversy.
Yeah. But I think that outside of that, like intentionally designed pieces are going to be there. I think it's just going to take time because the technology is getting there for one-person teams to make this stuff. But right now, like, take that game company. Like, they could put an Easter egg.
That always gets me.
They could put an Easter egg in Journey that could only be unlocked, after a certain number of people come across it and only 10 people could see it. Like, that is completely feasible for a team of their size to do that.
I think that it doesn't even have to
You
be
could
that.
also completely miss it and no one would ever know about it.
Exactly.
I mean, there's been secrets in games that have never been found up until recently.
Yeah, I
that
think
have been out for
AAA.
years.
I think AAA games though. While I agree that there are certain things that like a Stardew Valley or like oh my god, what is the game I just was playing? Graveyard Keeper.
Yeah.
Graveyard Keeper has nothing to do with CD Projekt Red, but they have Geralt in the game.
Yeah.
You pick up his corpse.
That's cool.
And it's like most people would never understand that, but then when you see the name and like you see the body and everything, like if you played The Witcher, know The Witcher, you're like, that's cool.
Yeah.
And it's just something super subtle. I think that you're talking about the AAA studios can do it. Like I think Epic's already done it. They just didn't do it well, in my opinion.
Drinkbox Studios did it with Guacamelee. They had like a bunch of stuff in there.
But I'm not talking about just Easter eggs. I'm talking about exclusive
Exactly,
Easter eggs.
and that's what I'm saying. I think Epic's already done it. They just didn't do it the best or the most logical my way. The rocket launch in Fortnite. That's a huge event. And it was like you had to be there or you had to watch it on YouTube. Like to me, that is like a AAA studio being like, that's pushing art, that's pushing media, that's pushing news, whatever. That's a huge deal. Now, the thing where I think they really missed the cash cow here is if you watch it, you get a
something.
I see it badge or I get a pickaxe or whatever. And that's something where it's like, that's the only way you can get it.
Yeah.
You don't get that patch. Like Counter-Strike has emblems and it's like you can show off how long you've been in the game. It's like, oh, you've been playing for 10 years. You're like an OG gangster.
Yeah.
And there's no way to get it other than just playing for amount of time. But I think with Fortnite and other things like that, you could totally do it and it would be awesome. But I think you shy away because it's like League of Legends and Fortnite. Fortnite just got pushed back to, they re-released the first batch of skins.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, man.
Don't do it.
All those people in the beginning were like, I'm OG. Like,
Yeah.
I've been playing for a long time. But I want to be a knight.
Well, should have been here to begin with.
Exactly.
No, I definitely think it's going to take smaller developers. Like the concept I just threw out, but I think now the more I think about it, it's just absolutely amazing. It is like put everyone on a planet and see what happens.
Yeah.
You know, have no control of just physics and that's it. You know, they may destroy it, they may maintain it. You're going to see people who are trying to fight for this thing because it's the only one.
You'll only know
What
if
if I told
you
you it
are
exists, Brent?
actively involved.
What if I
with
told you it exists?
What if it what?
What if I told you it exists?
What
What if I told you it exists?
Shut up. Just shut up. Shut your mouth.
What if I told you,
you know-
I
you know
can
what he's
take
gonna
you
I
to
know
a place?
exactly what he's
You
going
know
to
what
say.
he's say.
What am I gonna say?
Neminsky?
No, it's not Neminsky. No, that's all. No.
It's kind of like No Man's Sky.
I was about to say, it can
Kinda.
be. Because technically it's one whole world that could be affected.
But I think we can wrap this topic up.
No, we can't.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Really?
we're
What
good.
about I thought
Yeah, I think we're
okay.
good. We're good. Man.
I think you can get a ship in it right now. Honestly.
I don't hear about this dumbass game anymore.
Oh,
How
he's
much
talking
money did you
about
spend on
it.
this game?
Oh my god. That game.
How much money did you spend on this
I'm gonna
game?
defend the planet.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a fleet to defend the planet. The system.
When is it coming out?
Sometime. Eventually. They just did it. They're doing an update soon.
Oil salesman is all I hear. You want to buy some of this digital planet? I'm rolling in my money now.
I'm just saying, in like 5 years, whenever like the planetary real estate market's popping off,
Yeah.
you guys are gonna be like, this is the dumbest way.
I was supporting you the entire time.
Take me on your yacht with you.
Yeah, just take me in- Hold on, let me load it up.
But I mean, I think it's just going to take time, and as technology progresses, as it becomes easier for people to make games, like I've heard so many arguments of you know, granted, all of our shops, all of our digital shops are over inundated with terrible games.
Yeah.
I think that the shop purveyor needs to be better about
PlayStation's
going
starting
through
to
that.
get bad.
But I also think that as technology becomes available for people who don't program code but do want to make a game, they're going to create some weird, fascinating things that we would never think of.
Yep.
Because we see this as a specific. I'm a game player. I've been playing games all my life. This is what a game is, and they'll be like, "No, what if it's this?"
You don't know what you don't know, so it's hard to
Yeah,
it's hard
So-
to think about what you don't know.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's gonna be awesome.
So,
The future holds many mysteries.
Many mysteries.
and that's the end of the show because there are mysteries after the end of the credits. I don't know where that was going.
Okay. I don't know what
Like
you're
I
doing, but
said,
it's not with me. But
we are here each and every week. We have multiple topics to discuss, along with the nerdy news that I'm not going to name the naughty name because we would get yelled at. We're trying to be better about that.
Naughty dowdy.
I'm trying to be better at that. I'm really bad at it. I apologize for all of my cursing. But until next time, please make sure you check the channel. We have some really cool stuff that we've done previously. I'm still very proud of our content couch. I want to continue to pimp it. Speaking of Overcooked, they released new DLC for Overcooked 2.
Yep.
You can go get that for $4.99. It's really, really fun. Until next time, aim for the bushes.
Aim for the bushes.